2001, the year that many would say defines NASCAR history. A year that was destined to be unlike any other. After 20 seasons of rewritten racing history, we've hit a season unlike any other. 2 decades of NASCAR history have changed. Everything from the cars in victory lane, the drivers hoisting the cup, to the very tracks they race on. Instead of the Intimidator or the Rainbow Warrior, it was Rusty Wallace who dominated the 90s. At the same time, we saw new names rise to the front. Bubba Nissen rose from humble Busch Series beginnings to become a Winston Cup champion. Davey Allison reached the mountaintop with his family's team. And of course, Patty Moise and Shauna Robinson led a revolution unlike anything seen in sports. And now, we've inevitably reached the year people ask what if to the most as Dale Earnhardt enters the twilight of his illustrious career.
In real life, 2001 was the year where fate brought NASCAR to the forefront, both in tragedy and in triumph. As the sport continues to grow, one of NASCAR's greatest and most competitive seasons is about to commence. But the question is, who will lead the way? The 2000 season kicked off the new decade with a bang. Rusty Wallace earned his 5th Winston Cup championship in a thrilling fight with Shauna Robinson. At the same time, we saw several new stars make their mark with a deep rookie class. The next generation of stock car racing is slowly appearing. Now, it's 2001, a year packed with history. It's time to find out who will rise next. First up, as usual, is the All-Road Course Stock GT Series. But before we begin, we need to note the series is getting a new look. As part of the realignment of sports car racing in the early 2000s, the series co-sanctioning is moving from IMSA to the new Grand American Racing brand, as the league was affiliated with NASCAR and ISC. As such, the co-sanctioned series now becomes the Grand Am Kodak Stock GT Series. As we take a look at the schedule, nothing changes from 2000 to 2001. It is still the same 10 races in its same order, as the season starts in Daytona and ends in Riverside. As mentioned last season, Chip Ganassi Racing becomes part of the Dodge program in the Winston Cup, and does so by buying out SS Motorsports. As a result, their 2 stock GT teams merge to become a 3-car Dodge flagship. The trio of Dodge Vipers will have the same lineup as last season: Tony Ave in the 1, Sean Woodside in the 2, and Jeff Davis in the 85, as Davis reunites with Ganassi. This sets up the other notable story for 2001, with Chip Ganassi having previously served as the Chevrolet flagship for Stock GT. They needed a new team to fill the role, and to do so, they turned to their own sports car world. Corvette Racing is entering the Stock GT Series to become the new Chevrolet flagship with support from Richard Childress. They will field 2 cars in 2001. Firstly, Boris Said moves from Ford to Chevy to drive the number 22 America Online car, and the other is former Le Mans Class winner Olivier Beretta, who outran his equipment at Team Cheever as a rookie. Beretta will drive the number 33 CorvetteRacing.com car. Replacing Boris Said at Irvin Simo Racing is an intriguing rookie, Christian Fittipaldi. The Brazilian driver steps away from kart to pursue NASCAR racing, as he did in real life. He takes over the number 4 car. The other 2 rookies he'll compete with are Larry Foyt, who goes full-time in the number 41 Harris Pontiac for AJ Foyt, as well as Alfonso Ribeiro, who will attempt a full season for Hollywood Motorsports. As for the Cheever 52 vacated by Beretta, that ride is taken over by Tom Hubert, with All-American Racers closing their team. Lastly, for the full-timers, Scott Brayton leaves Team Menard to return to open-wheel racing, and his car is taken over by Anthony Lazzaro, with Lazzaro's old PPI seat going to David Donahue. As for our part-timers, Veterans Andy Pilgrim and Elliott Forbes Robinson will continue their entries into Stock GT, but a certain other driver will make a one-off in the series at the season opener in Daytona. A driver who just came away with a 4th place finish driving alongside Pilgrim in the Rolex 24. That's right, the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt, will run the season opener in a 3rd Corvette racing car, the same bright yellow number 3 that he wheeled in the endurance race. Let's now move on to the highlights of the season as we start off at Daytona with Tony Ave scoring the pole for the season opener and the first pole for Dodge in the Stock GT series. Here's the first lap of the 2001 season. Ave would lead the first couple of laps until Scott Pruitt took the lead from him on lap 3, but then a few laps later, Ave took it back. Early on, it was a battle between Pruitt, Ave, and Boris Said. On lap 12, there was a pileup on the backstretch chicane as Ron Fellows and Alfonso Ribeiro lost control, and a few others, such as Sean Woodside and Amy Rumman. All the leaders except Mark Simo and Chris Neville stayed out, and shortly after the restart, Andy Pilgrim began to slow up going down the backstretch, causing him and Dale Earnhardt to get together. Earnhardt did drive away, but Cat Teasdale slammed into Pilgrim and Larry Foyt slammed into Teasdale to bring out the caution. Things then settled down as Scott Pruitt held on to the lead. He would then pit with 5 to go and would come up a couple of laps short as P.J. Jones, Paige Jones's brother, finally earns his first ever win in the Stock GT Series to kick off 2001. The defending Stock GT champion, Mark Simo, started on the pole for the second race of the season at Sebring, and while he had the car to beat, he was in hot pursuit with Darren Brassfield and Ron Fellows, who tried to fight for the lead, but never got that good a look. It seemed like fuel would play a factor, with the pit cycle being at the halfway point. With that, Scott Pruitt and rookie Christian Fittipaldi stayed out to try to catch some fuel luck. But for the original leaders, it was just not a concern. Mark Simo went on to lead almost every lap, and the defending champion wins at Sebring as he looks to go back-to-back. In the next race at Portland, we had a fun battle between two great road ringers, pole sitter Ron Fellows with Boris Said behind. Said wouldn't go away, and while the two of them were far ahead of the field, the pivotal moment would come on the pit stop where Ron Fellows short pitted, but Boris Said used the open track ahead of him to make it even with Fellows. They went side by side into the chicane following the stop, and Fellows took the lead a few corners later. And while Boris Said had fresher tires, he had the worst car, as Ron Fellows pulls ahead to earn a much-needed win after surprisingly going winless in Stock GT last year. It was a calm, long-run race at Lime Rock, but it did feature a wild start. Christian Fittipaldi, the rookie for Irvin Simo Racing in the 4, started on the pole, but the start saw a lot of contact in turn 1, as last week's top two, Fellows and Said, both got forced wide into turn 1, with Said nearly spinning out. The battle on the front row was between Fittipaldi and his boss and teammate, Mark Simo. Simo took the lead on the outside and ran away until lap traffic allowed Fittipaldi to reel him back in. Fittipaldi didn't get the chance to run for the win because he ran out of time, but in 2 or 3 more laps he would have gotten the win. The defending champ, Mark Simo, earns his second win of the season. Montreal always tends to be the wildest race of the season, and this trend continued for 2001, as Boris Said started on the pole, with Alfonso Ribeiro starting an impressive 3rd and having a career day running top 10 the whole race. Scott Pruitt started 2nd, but took the lead on the start and defended it from P.J. Jones. Corvette Racing had an off day with Boris Said losing momentum and Olivier Beretta forced to pit early after hitting the wall hard in turn 3. Later in the race, Pruitt retook the lead on the first pit stops, but he was close on fuel. And the same was said with Ryan Hampton, who jumped to second in the pit cycle. Pruitt was in fact not good on fuel and had to pit with 4 to go, with Ganassi's Tony Ave taking the lead. He, Darren Brasfield, and Anthony Lazzaro were the 3 to stretch their fuel, and Brasfield ran out and had to pit, but Ave and Lazzaro stretched it on fumes as Tony Ave gets his first career stock GT win for Ganassi and also earns Dodge their first stock GT victory. Halfway through the season, Mark Simo held a 30-point lead over Ganassi's Sean Woodside, despite his teammate just winning a race. Scott Pruitt sits back by 44, with Darren Brasfield and PJ Jones rounding out the top 5 in the standings. At Mid-Ohio, Ron Fellows and Scott Pruitt shared the front row, but it was Scott Pruitt pulling away early. However, on the first lap, Dorsey Schrader ran into David Donahue going into a turn. Mike Borkowski was also collected, and Amy Rumman was an innocent victim running into Donahue. Paul Gentilozzi and Rick Ware got some damage too, as the caution had to be waived for the pileup. Afterwards, Pruitt was running away with it all the way until the caution came out around the halfway point for Larry Foyt blowing his engine. Everyone except for Darren Brasfield, David Donahue, and Paul Gentilozzi pitted, handing the lead to Brasfield. However, Brasfield couldn't make it to the end, handing the lead to Donahue. However, in that same lap, Scott Pruitt zoomed right past the 25 and would run away with the win at Mid-Ohio. David Donahue would hang on for second with a banged-up race car. PJ Jones started on the pole in Topeka, but it was the outside pole sitter Jeff Davis pulling away on the start, and he had the car to beat after a rough start to the season. Davis pulled away while the title contenders battled each other for second, while the 85 pulled ahead and didn't look back. Jeff Davis gets his first win of the season, his first since being merged into Ganassi's team. This marked his 5th career win in the Stock GT Series. Boris Said got another pole at Watkins Glen and had a thrilling battle alongside his title rival Scott Pruitt. On lap 5, they were side by side for multiple corners, with Boris Said defending before Pruitt got the better of him on lap 8. In fact, our top 4 in points all ran in a row at one point between Pruitt, Said, Fellows, and Simo. Pruitt couldn't run away in the short run, but did extend his lead in the second half. Scott Pruitt wins his second race of the season to increase his points lead, with his teammate Ron Fellows finishing second for a Sapco 1-2 as they both pursue the title. As the season winds down, we have a very competitive season on our hands, but Sapco and Irvin Simo have led the way. PJ Jones started on the pole in the desert, but owner and teammate Mark Simo pulled away for a time. However, pit strategy got tricky as right at the halfway point, we had a caution for Larry Foyt turned around in turn 1. Simo kept the lead with Olivier Beretta having the best race of his career behind, looking for his first win. Late in the race, the leaders needed to pit again. Simo still beat Beretta off pit road, but one driver managed to beat the odds and stretch the fuel, and it was the pole sitter. After starting out in front but losing the lead, PJ Jones comes back to earn his second win of the season and of his career. Perhaps he could have surprise entered the title fight, but he denied his teammates some points in the process. As the season winds down, we have a very competitive championship fight. And with that, Scott Pruitt held a 29-point lead going into Riverside over Boris Said and a 54-point lead over teammate Ron Fellows. PJ Jones and Mark Simo are also mathematically in the picture, but a lot would have to happen if they want to take home the title. Scott Pruitt started on the pole and led the field to the green flag for the season finale at Riverside. However, Mark Simo quickly pulled ahead of Pruitt and would take control of the race. Despite Mark Simo leading for the first half of the race, Scott Pruitt kept very close. Then halfway through the race, Simo made his green flag pit stop, but he stalled on pit road, causing him to have a 45-second stop that would cost him the win. It came down to Scott Pruitt and Boris Said in the closing laps, but in the end, Said would lose ground, and Scott Pruitt would pull away to win at Riverside and take home the Grand Am Kodak Stock GT Series Championship for 2001. In just his sophomore season in the series, Pruitt dominated the circuit with 3 wins, 6 top 5s, 9 top 10s, and an average finish of 4.8. There will be plenty of celebrations back at the Team Sapco shop with this one, as we now take a look at the winners and the final standings from the 2001 Grand Am Kodak Stock GT Series season. Scott Pruitt had the most wins this season with 3, with Mark Simo and PJ Jones both collecting 2. Scott Pruitt wins the championship by 49 points over Boris Said and 89 points over Ron Fellows. Christian Fittipaldi had a solid Rookie of the Year season, finishing in 6th. We now move on to the 2001 NASCAR DuPont Super Sportsman Series season. As last season, we saw a breakout season for J.D. Gibbs, as he took home the title for his father's organization. Gibbs will be running the Busch Series in 2001, so the title is up for grabs, and it is anticipated there will be many in the running for it. Taking a quick look at the schedule, there weren't any changes to it outside of I-70 Bristol and Nazareth being swapped around, as the schedule remains at 23 races, with the season starting at Walt Disney World and ending at the Daytona Superstretch. The Super Sportsman Series has a lot of storylines heading into 2001, and many of them center around the manufacturers. Dodge makes their first appearance in the Super Sportsman Series with a trio of full-time teams. As previously mentioned, Jarrett Farr Motorsports switches to Dodge, with Kirk Shelmerdine and Jason Jarrett remaining in their rides, now the Dodge Stratus. Dodge will also be bringing PPC Racing into their fold, with the 57 car of Kevin Grubb making the switch. PPC also brings in Yellow Freight as a new sponsor. As for the third Dodge team, it's a big story, with Bill Elliott Racing making its return to the series as Evernham's development team. This team will run the number 94 Sonic Dodge full-time and will be driven by last year's breakout star, Justin Labonte. The young Labonte makes the switch to Dodge, and we'll talk more about why later. The Elliott team will also field a second car in a few races for Jason Rudd, nephew of new Evernham driver Ricky Rudd. Now with that said, Dodge isn't the end of the news when it comes to new manufacturers. But the other story is a bit different. Another new manufacturer enters the Super Sportsman Series in a limited capacity, that being Toyota. In real life, Toyota's history in NASCAR began in 2001 with a trial run in the Goodies Dash Series, where they supported 3 independent drivers. Well, what if they did the same in Super Sportsman? 3 drivers, including 2 rookies, will run cars branded as Toyota Celicas this season. First is Andy Houston, who joins the program from the Closing Cranifus team, driving the number 6 sponsored by State Fair. Toyota's second driver is the champ of the Dash Series himself, Robert Huffman. The short track star and 4-time champion brings his number 37 White House team to the Super Sportsman Series. And lastly is one of Toyota's own, a driver who came to the U.S. to race stock cars. Takuma Koga, the 24-year-old, will run the number 99 for the Toyota program. Toyota's in a different situation, where they're thinking smaller than Dodge, for now at least. Time will tell when they could rise the ranks themselves, just as Dodge did. Moving to other big storylines, another is at Joe Gibbs Racing. As previously mentioned, the champion, J.D. Gibbs, moves up to the Busch Series, and replacing him in the 17 car is a driver who needed a new opportunity, Billy Venturini. He makes the switch from AK Racing after a few solid seasons as he looks to take his next step. The vacated number 7 for AK, on the other hand, is given to a rookie and one of Kawicki's fellow Wisconsinites, Scott Wimmer. Wimmer moves up from the ASA ranks to join Kawicki's team, with MBNA expanding their sponsorship to include this car. There's 2 more drivers who will contend for the Rookie of the Year award, and one is replacing Ricky Hendrick at his father's team. With Ricky moving into another series, Hendrick turns to a rookie, Nathan Hosley, another short tracker looking to make his name at the next level. But the Midwesterners don't end there. Lastly, for the rookies, Richard Childress Racing opens a second car, the number 3, sponsored by Twizzlers through the Hershey Company. Driving this car will be another young driver who's competed with Hosley a lot, Travis Quaffle. He joins the Childress camp as he makes his first appearance in National NASCAR Racing. As for notable part-timers, Angela and Amber Cope, Derek Cope's nieces, will once again split the 73 car. Frank Kimmel, Jeff Foltz, Randy Porter, and more all continue their part-time operations, but one other small team enters the space. Longtime Northeast racer Martin Truex brings his family team to the series with the number 56 Sea-Watch Chevrolet. This car will be driven by none other than his son, Martin Truex Jr. We are back at Disney World for the season opener as Jason Jarrett started on the pole with Billy Venturini in his new JGR ride starting second. Jarrett pulled away with an early and easy lead, and things stayed relatively calm during the first half of the race. However, around lap 40, as green flag pit stops were wrapping up, Billy Venturini, who had just pit, lost control and slapped the wall in turn 4. Then in the closing laps, it came down to Jason Jarrett and Justin Labonte, a pair of Dodges looking to give Dodge their first win in the series. With 3 laps to go, Justin Labonte stuck to the outside of Jarrett to battle for the lead. Then coming back around to 2 to go, Justin Labonte took the lead and he would go on to win at Walt Disney World, handing Dodge their first win in the series. The second race of the season was rather mellow as Billy Venturini started on the pole with Ron Barfield starting second. Venturini dominated all race long, and after green flag pit stops, Barfield was able to leapfrog Venturini. However, with a handful of laps to go, Venturini got around Barfield and he would go on to get his first win of the season. Could this be a big year for Billy Venturini? Rich Bickle started on the pole with Kirk Shelmerdine in second for Atlanta, but then on lap 5, Justin Labonte took the lead. He would lead for the next 8 laps until Kirk Shelmerdine took the lead. Then on lap 25, Ron Barfield took the lead and would lead until the caution came out during the first round of pit stops. Bobby Hamilton Jr. and Kevin Grubb got together trying to get to pit road, causing Scott Wimmer to slam into Hamilton, taking Wimmer out of the race. Jason Schuler also got collected in the mess as well. Barfield led at the restart, but right after, Kevin Grubb took the lead after being in the earlier incident. Then 4 laps later, Travis Quaffle took the lead all the way until the final round of pit stops on lap 69, in which Jason Jarrett would take a nice control of the lead and would run away to his first win of the season. Hermie Sadler scored the pole for the race at I-70 and led for the first handful of laps, but after that, Jason Jarrett took the lead. While the race was calm and Jason Jarrett was looking strong, he had an issue on pit road during green flag pit stops and would go a lap down. This handed the lead to, at first, Nathan Hosley, but then got passed by another driver in search of his first win, that being Travis Quaffle. Quaffle took the lead and never looked back as he went on to get his first career win at I-70 Speedway. Then in the next race, Bobby Hamilton Jr. started on the pole for Bristol, but the big story were the Dodges. Both Jarrett Favre cars of Jason Jarrett and Kirk Shelmerdine were fast and led laps, but stealing the show was Jason Rudd, the part-time nephew of Ricky Rudd, who started 7th and found himself as high as 2nd. For a time, it even looked like he could find a way to steal a shock win, as Shelmerdine made an ill-timed long pit strategy. But it was the other Jason, the 33 of Jarrett, pulling ahead after pit stops and never looking back. Jason Jarrett is our first repeat winner of the season, and what a day for Dodge as well with a top 3 sweep. Shelmerdine 2nd, and an impressive Jason Rudd in third. While Nazareth is a place where track position is key, it also carries interesting storylines, such as this one. The rookie Nathan Hosley started on the pole in the Hendrick 51, and after an early battle with Hermie Sadler and Jeff Purvis, he got room to never have a real challenger throughout the race. Nathan Hosley leads wire to wire for his first career win at Nazareth. Also of note, Martin Truex Jr. finished 24th in his debut for his family team. Upstate New York brought us a race with plenty of stories. On pole for the first time in her career is Angie Wilson, looking to finally break through at Phoenix Racing. While she didn't come home with a win, she did have a career day, leading the first third of the race and coming home in 5th. The real story was Jason Jarrett taking the lead after a great battle between he, Wilson, and Hermie Sadler before chaos erupted during pit stops. Jarrett was among the first to pit, but made contact on pit road with the lapped Bobby Gearhart. He kept going, but had an already long stop, made worse by a caution a few laps later for Nathan Hosley, who was pushed wide coming to pit road by Jeff Purvis and ran into the pit wall, collecting Andy Houston along the way. Amid the chaos, it was Scott Wimmer who had the fastest car on track and climbed to second before Jarrett's problem, taking the lead. Wimmer would dominate the rest of the day for his first career win in the series, our third first-time winner in 9 races. And off pit strategy, we had 2 big surprises in the top 10, those being Martin Truex Jr. in just his second start, finishing 8th, as well as Takuma Koga in 9th. And a couple of races later, and for the second time this season, Angie Wilson sat on the pole, showing her short track prowess in a race that had a lot of leaders. Wilson led early, but another underdog found his way to the front quick after having a good qualifying run. Robert Huffman, who took the 37 car to the lead for a few laps and gave Toyota their first laps led in NASCAR as part of their Upstart program. 3 longer run cars with pace all exchanged the lead: Travis Quaffle, Jason Schuler, and Hermie Sadler. However, a caution during pit stops set up a different look for the finish, a 2-way battle between Schuler and Mike Dillon, who both stayed out and kept position. Schuler looked like he'd run away with it, but Mike Dillon mastered lap traffic, and the two of them battled with 20 to go, with Dillon taking the lead, but then Jason Schuler taking it right back. With 15 to go, Schuler took the lead again, and this time pulled ahead thanks to traffic. Jason Schuler gets his first career win at South Boston, the 9th winner in the first half of this season. At IRP, the outside line always seems to prevail, and this race was no different, with Bobby Hamilton Jr. on pole, but falling quick on the start to the outside line of Ron Barfield Jr. and Scott Wimmer, who were the class of the field today. Barfield had the lead almost the whole time, and the two ran 1-2 almost the whole race. The lap traffic did bunch up the leaders a bit at the end, with Wimmer on Barfield's bumper, plus Billy Venturini entering the fray in 3rd after short pitting. Wimmer looked for opportunities, but just never got the run he needed, as Ron Barfield Jr. closes it out and becomes the first driver to win 3 races in this very competitive season. Taking a look at the standings after IRP, Kirk Shelmerdine has the points lead over Ron Barfield by just 30 points. Then, back by 72 points, is rookie Nathan Hosley. Justin Labonte and Travis Quaffle are also in the running as well. For the next race, we head down I-65 to Louisville, as Mike Dillon started on the pole with Jason Rudd starting next to him. There was a caution on lap 2 for Cincinnati native Jeff Fultz getting turned by Takuma Koga. Then Mike Dillon took off with the lead. But as he began to work on lap traffic, Jason Rudd and Nathan Hosley were reeling him in. Rudd was looking for his big moment, but before he could, the caution came out with 6 laps to go after Robert Huffman turned Shane Hall, which had 4th place Justin Labonte collected. Labonte was shuffled to 9th, while Mike Dillon took home the win in the Derby City. 2 races later at North Wilkesboro, we had multiple winless drivers up front with this one. as Hermie Sadler started on the pole with Rich Bickle and Angie Wilson near the front. We had exciting fights for second involving Bickle and Wilson, and later drivers like Venturini and Quaffle. But the front of the field was all 43, as Hermie Sadler dominates at North Wilkesboro to get back in the win column for the first time this season. As we hit the final 5 races, we had a thriller in this one where not many title contenders were a factor late. The early battle was between pole sitter Billy Venturini and rookie star Travis Quaffle as they exchanged the lead multiple times, but a caution during pit stops for Bobby Hamilton Jr. and Ashton Lewis shifted the field a bit. Unfortunately for Quaffle, he was trapped a lap down, while Venturini was third behind Hermie Sadler and Angie Wilson. Once again, Angie Wilson managed to find her way to the lead on the long run, but this time it looked like she could run for the win late, until one driver came in with a rocket, and his name was Kevin Grubb. Grubb in the PPC 57 restarted 9th after the caution and worked his way up through lap traffic and caught Wilson with 7 to go. Grubb took the lead and earned his first career lap sled with 5 to go, looking for a first career upset win, and he would make the pass and hold her off. Kevin Grubb comes from nowhere for his first career win at Memphis. A much needed one for this young PPC team as well. Angie Wilson, meanwhile, continues her career year with another second place finish, but she just can't seem to get that first win. After Memphis, this title fight has gotten quite interesting. As Kirk Shelmerdine wrecked and DNF'd at Martinsville, he dropped from 1st to 5th. He is still in the running, but this championship battle has gotten very entertaining, as currently the rookie Nathan Hosley currently leads it. In the 20th race of the season at Hickory, Travis Quaffle started on the pole and led for about 30 laps at the beginning. That was until Rich Bickle would take the lead from him. Bickle ran into some trouble around lap 75 as he turned to the lap car of Tracy Leslie to bring out the caution during green flag pit stops. After this, only a handful of cars were on the lead lap as it came down to Rich Bickle and Nathan Hosley. Hosley was right on the back of Bickle with 5 to go, but went down pit road for a splash and go. Bickle, however, would hang on, not needing to pit, as Rich Bickle picks up his first Super Sportsman win since 1997 at Hickory. This also marks the first win for Herzog Motorsports. It's the second to last race of the season, and it's time to make that final push to the championship. Can anyone catch the king of consistency, Nathan Hosley? Jason Jarrett and Ron Barfield led the field to the green flag, but immediately it was Quaffle and Dillon on the offensive. Jarrett led the first 11 laps until Mike Dillon would take the lead. Quaffle would then slide in the second, but 18 laps later, here came Justin Labonte from out of nowhere, as he got past both RCR cars to take the lead and trying to stay in the championship fight, much like Mike Dillon. On lap 62, green flag pit stops were underway as Justin Labonte made his stop. Dillon made his stop a lap later. Labonte would continue to lead all the way to the caution on lap 75 when Kevin Grubb turned Robert Huffman and was hit on the side by Bill Bigley Jr., causing Huffman to roll over a couple of times. Labonte would lead the field back to the green on lap 80 with Travis Quaffle second, Hermie Sadler third, and Mike Dillon fourth. Then after another restart, Mike Dillon finally caught up to Justin Labonte and took the lead, and Mike Dillon would go on to win at Nashville. Nathan Hosley holds his point lead by 89 points over Sadler, Dillon, and Justin Labonte, who's back by 99. With the smaller field for the Daytona Superstretch, Hosley is going to need a major error to lose the title. But Sadler, Dillon, and Labonte all have an even shot at second, and can maybe pounce with good luck. And here we are, the season finale for the 2001 DuPont Super Sportsman Series season. We kick things off with our B main as Bobby Gearhart scored the pole with Jason Rudd in second. But it was Frank Kimmel, the ARCA champion, jumping to the front, and he would go on to take the win in the B main. The top 8 advancing are Frank Kimmel, Mario Goslin, Jason Rudd, Bobby Gearhart, Tina Gordon, Takuma Koga, Angela Cope, and Curtis Markham. And now for the main event, as Jason Jarrett and Scott Wimmer led the field to the green flag for the final time in 2001. Jarrett quickly took over the lead with Billy Venturini taking second. That 1-2 would stay the same all throughout the race as Nathan Hosley started 19th and worked his way through the field. Jason Jarrett would close out 2001 with his third win of the season, and a rookie that came out of nowhere would take home the championship, and that being Nathan Hosley, your 2001 DuPont Super Sportsman Series champion. It was a very solid and consistent season for the Wisconsin native, as Rick Hendrick might have another prospect on his hands. Hosley finishes the season with 1 win, 10 top 5s, and 18 top 10s with an average finish of 7.87. He wins the title over Mike Dillon by 68 points. With Nathan Hosley's championship, Rick Hendrick just may have another prospect on his hands. And with that, here are all the winners and your final standings from the 2001 NASCAR DuPont Super Sportsman Series season. It was a fun competitive season as we had 13 different winners in our 23 races. Mike Dillon, Ron Barfield Jr., and Jason Jarrett all tied with 3 wins, but it was a very stat competitive field. Billy Venturini had a good year, finishing 4th in the standings, and some of the Dodge folks like Labonte and Jarrett were very impressive. Kevin Grubb could be another driver to look out for in the Dodge camp moving forward, as he finished a solid 12th in the standings. The Toyota guys also kept it in good standing, finishing 17th, 18th, and 19th in the standings, and certainly a lot to build upon heading into 2002. Next up is the 2001 NASCAR Craftsman Super Truck Series season, as we had an exciting championship battle in 2000. Chris Trickle was able to take home the title in his hometown after Tim Richmond ran out of fuel late in the going. Trickle will also move up to the Busch Series this season, as Tim Richmond will be looking for redemption. There is one notable change to the schedule for 2001 as it expands to 25 races. The newest addition to the Super Truck Tour is the brand new Nashville SuperSpeedway, located in the suburbs of Nashville. We will talk more about this track a little later. There were no other changes outside of Nashville. The biggest story heading into the truck season was the formation of a new team that looks to contend for wins right away. Following his Winston Cup retirement, Darrell Waltrip decides to sell his Truck Series operation to another Winston Cup driver, that being the best of them all, Rusty Wallace. Rusty Wallace Incorporated enters the series earlier than Real Life as a result of his monumental success, where they will serve as the de facto Penske truck team. Ted Musgrave will drive one of their trucks, now the number 63, sponsored by Subway. Their second truck, on the other hand, goes to a rookie with quite the notable name in the Ford camp, John Wood, the 19-year-old son of Glenn Wood. He will drive the number 66 truck, sponsored by Air Force. This new team will also enter a part-time truck, the number 6 Harley-Davidson Ford, and this will feature a few short track races for Stedman Marlin, the son of Rusty's teammate Sterling Marlin, and in addition to him, the Winston Cup champ himself, Rusty Wallace, will run 2 races in the Super Truck Series, the season opener at Daytona, and his home race, Gateway. We'll touch more on this later, but Rusty Wallace will become the first driver to attempt 3 races in the same weekend this season, doing so at Gateway in October. Another big story heading into the season involves the championship-winning truck. The 94 at Irvin Simo opens up, with Chris Trickle moving up to the Busch Series. Replacing him in it is a rookie who scored an upset win last season as a part-timer, Scott Bloomquist. The Dirt Ace scored a surprise Speedway win at Texas World for DEI, and he moves to Irvin Simo with Dale's blessing. This team also gets a new sponsor in Georgia Pacific. The number 3 truck does go full-time though for its other driver last season, Ronnie Hornaday, the son of Ron Hornaday Jr. in the Busch Series. The The rookie class doesn't end there though, with a few other series newcomers. Over at Dodge, Ken Schrader's 52 truck opens up, as Schrader will be attempting a Winston Cup comeback this season, and we'll talk more about it later. His 52 truck is taken over by a driver who's won in both the Busch Series and Stock GT, Willie T. Ribbs. After struggling in the 50 car the last 2 seasons, Ribbs decides to take a step down to the Super Truck Series with the goal of returning to victory lane. Rounding out the rookie class, we have Coy Gibbs going full-time in his father's truck, Matt Crafton, who will run a second truck for Bobby Hamilton Racing, Bobby Daughter, who will drive for his own team, Greenlight Racing, and Austin Cameron, the Winston West star, who takes over Bill McAnally's truck. As part of a unique deal, that truck gets rebranded to the 26, with its previous driver, Brendan Gong, moving into a partnering family team, the 62 Orleans Racing truck. Lastly, for full-time moves, Mike Bliss moves into the 68 truck for Impact Motorsports, replacing Musgrave, and David Starr moves into the 41 truck for TKO Motorsports. 2 stars of the series will also have new sponsors heading into 2001. The inaugural season champion Jeff Bodine brings in Jelly Belly as his sponsor, replacing QVC, while last year's runner-up Tim Richmond brings in Caterpillar as his new primary sponsor. As for the part-time trucks this season, Bill Davis's operation goes part-time as Kenny Irwin Jr. departs the team, and after a few disastrous seasons, he returns to dirt racing for the time being. This truck's races will instead be for a different up-and-coming dirt driver, Ryan Newman. Newman will run a part-time schedule with Bill Davis in both the Super Truck Series and the Busch Series. Tim Woods will drive for HT Motorsports part-time in their 92 truck. Ware Racing Enterprises has a pair of new drivers in Brian Rose and Donnie Neuenberger, and Morgan Shepherd opens up a part-time 21 truck that he will drive himself. And lastly, for the part-time trucks, Tim Richmond's Hollywood Motorsports will open a second truck, the number 49, sponsored by Starter Jackets. This truck will feature both a black and blue primary scheme, as well as a few college sports paint schemes as they did in real life. As for who drives this truck, it's a young star who could be just a little rowdy. 16-year-old Kyle Busch. He will drive a variety of races in the second half of the season, where he'll be a young Chevy prospect competing with his brother Kurt Busch, running full-time at the Dodge Ram team. Tony Roper led the field to the green flag to kick off the 2001 season and the second ever Super Truck race at Daytona. However, the 1999 champion's quest for a second title got off to a rocky start after he got involved in a wreck early in the going. After a couple of early cautions, the rest of the race ran clean, as we had some interesting names up front, such as Cindy Peterson, Carlos Contreras, Stacy Compton, Scott Bloomquist, Greg Biffle, among others. On the final lap, Peterson used a couple of lap trucks as a pick to get around Greg Biffle and ran off with the win. After going winless in 2000, her 2001 season is off to a promising start, as this marks Peterson's 4th career win, as she earned her other 3 back in 1999. Definitely a much-needed boost for Cindy Peterson. The third race of the year at Evergreen was a calm one, but it gave us quite the story. After starting on pole and leading every lap, at long last, Michael Waltrip in the 16 for DEI finally gets his first career win. Mikey, you got it. Then in the next race at Sears Point, Tim Richmond started on pole and led early, before caution for Mark Gibson stalling on the track with a camshaft issue. We saw pit stops under yellow, and Richmond lost the lead to the rookie John Wood. Wood, Roper, and Richmond were the trio to battle up front after multiple wrecks of various causes, starting with a big wreck in turn 1 involving Coy Gibbs and Cindy Peterson, among others. And a late wreck with 2 to go for Brian Rose, ending the race under yellow. But up front, it was a potential young star in the making, as in just his 4th start, John Wood earns his first career win, as well as Rusty Wallace's first career win as an owner. In the 5th race at Atlanta, it was an exciting one as Cindy Peterson started on the pole and was looking strong early as she led until the first round of green flag pit stops. After that, she had some competition from the likes of Greg Biffle, Tim Richmond, and others. A caution came out in the later portion of the race as Scott Lagasse just made his green flag stop but runs into the 92 of Tim Woods coming onto the track, and Woods goes for a spin. The leaders then had to deal with all kinds of lap traffic as Tim Richmond worked hard to pull away. But there were still so many lap trucks as Greg Biffle, Michael Waltrip, John Wood, and Ernie Irvin were all there in contention. Then on the final lap, Richmond was trying to hang on the outside when he and Greg Biffle were challenged by the Rusty Wallace teammates of John Wood and Ted Musgrave. And coming back to the checkers, it was John Wood stealing the win from Richmond by 9 1/1000ths of a second. Back-to-back wins for the rookie, and he gets help from a veteran in Musgrave, who is also his teammate. John Wood is immediately looking like a promising prospect at just 19 years old. Our first dirt race of the season gave us an exciting one, as Dennis Setzer started on the pole in the Petty 43, with Brendan Gong, Kurt Busch, and Ronnie Hornaday all starting up front too. In a wild start, Kurt Busch took the lead from third, and Cindy Peterson had a great run up to second, followed by a wreck in the back for Ted Musgrave, Mark Gibson, and Rick Crawford, with Rick Crawford ending up on his roof. Kurt Busch managed to pull ahead for a while before lap traffic allowed 2 winners in Cindy Peterson and Jack Sprague to slowly make their way to him. Sprague was much better in traffic and cut his 3-second lead down to be in his mirror at the white, but he never got a run, and Kurt Busch finally gets his first career win for the Bob Keselowski Dodge truck, and he does so not many races before his more anticipated brother will make his own debut. Kurt Busch stayed hot off last week starting in third, but didn't have many chances to go for back-to-back wins, as this race completely belonged to Michael Waltrip, who led from the pole from start to finish, earning his second win of the season at Heartland Park as he finally comes alive. At the Bristol Dirt Race, Tim Richmond was on track to have a dominant day until having issues on pit road that put him multiple laps down. After that, it was Tony Roper taking the lead once again. No one could catch Roper through the lap traffic, but when it looked like Roper would drive away with it, here came Scott Lagasse. Lagasse had been struggling all season long, but he came in clutch as he took the lead with 2 laps to go and earns his first win of 2001. Huge win for that 51 team. We head to the Rockies for the next race as Cindy Peterson started on the pole. She had a comfortable lead going until lap 20 when the caution came out for Ted Musgrave and Michael Waltrip getting together as they were running 4th and 5th. Musgrave went hard into the wall and his day was done. Peterson continued to lead after the restart, but she was under fire from Tony Roper and Tim Richmond. Then with nearly 20 laps to go, Tony Roper got around Peterson, then Richmond did as well. Peterson would eventually fall to an 8th place finish. After the final round of pit stops, Tim Richmond got out ahead of Roper. Then, right as that happened, Tony Raines got into the 31 of Doug George as he came off pit road to bring out the caution with 7 to go. We had a 1-lap dash to the finish, but Scott Lagasse was not able to get to Richmond, and Tim Richmond would go on to win at Pikes Peak. Stacy Compton holds on to the points lead, but Tony Roper and Tim Richmond are there to pounce, as Roper was back by 36 and Richmond was back by 43. Not to mention Cindy Peterson and Greg Biffle were also still in the mix. The 14th race of the season at Willow Springs had an interesting front row. Ronnie Hornaday, the rookie with little road course experience, got the pole alongside road course veteran Willie T. Ribbs. Ribbs took the lead on the start, but he couldn't pull away with Jack Sprague and Tim Richmond battling him. Once pit stops started, things got very interesting. Ribbs lost spots on pit road, and Sprague and Richmond were dead even coming off it, and passed each other multiple times on the next lap, all while Barry Bodine jumped to the lead on the short pit. Eventually, Tim Richmond pulled ahead from Sprague and had the better truck than Bodine. Richmond went for the lead coming with 2 to go and made it stick, and Jack Sprague took second. On the final lap, Sprague made up ground and might have been able to pass Richmond with another lap or two, but he couldn't get it done, and Tim Richmond wins at Willow Springs in a thriller. Plus, his new protege, 16-year-old Kyle Busch, had an impressive run in just his third start, running 5th in the final cycle and finishing 7th. The 16th race at Irwindale was a fun one, as Eric Norris started on the pole, but quickly got overtaken by Waltrip and Peterson. This race featured fun multi-groove short track racing, and in the end, Cindy Peterson and Willie T. Ribbs got around Michael Waltrip, then Ribbs got around Peterson, and Willie T. Ribbs would go on to get the win at Irwindale. The Super Trucks head to the Music City's newest attraction of Nashville SuperSpeedway as Jack Sprague started from the pole, but 4 laps in, Greg Biffle would take the lead. Biffle has had a solid season, but is still chasing that first win of 2001. He had to defend the lead a lot from Michael Waltrip and Tony Roper shortly after. Then during green flag pit stops, the caution came out when Stacy Compton broke down from second place, causing Dennis Setzer to run into the back of him. Setzer was done, but Compton was able to keep going. Biffle continued to lead after the restart, and not too long after, Tony Roper took the lead from Biffle. After the second round of pit stops, Scott Lagacy had the lead in front of Tony Roper, and then closing in on 15 to go, Roper took the lead back. However, Cindy Peterson came from nowhere. She took the lead not too long after, and would go on to win at Nashville. We had all kinds of fun action-packed racing at Michigan, but with 10 to go, the final round of pit stops began. During that process, the caution came out after Scott Bloomquist and Terry Cook got together coming off turn 2, causing Cook to go for a spin and bring out the caution, as leader Austin Cameron got back to the line with 5 laps remaining. The race would end up being decided on a 1-lap dash to the finish. Austin Cameron, Scott Lagacy, Randy Talsma, and some other leaders had yet to pit and elected to stay out to try and steal the win. Cameron got a good restart on Lagacy, and down the backstretch, the lap truck of Cindy Peterson got past Lagacy, and coming off turn 4, Cameron began to run out of gas, but on fumes he made it back to the line first. On fumes, Austin Cameron collects his first career win on a wild finish at Michigan. Kurt Busch would proceed to take home his second win of the season at Vancouver. The next race at Memphis would be an exciting one with an important purpose. On a late September afternoon, the track would play host to one of the best races of the season, with American flags in hand. And with that, it's a beautiful September afternoon in front of a packed crowd in Memphis, Tennessee, as this race would go down as one of the most exciting races of the season. Tim Richmond and Cindy Peterson led the field to the green flag to start the race, but it was Richmond pulling away immediately. Richmond quickly showed that he was not to be beaten today. He dominated all race long until the caution came out towards the closing laps of the race, when Ronnie Hornaday and Mike Bliss tangled. Richmond and Compton were 1-2 for most of the day as they led the field back to the green. Compton began to chase down Richmond, and with 6 to go, Compton looked to repeat what he did here a year ago, and he took the lead from Richmond. But on the final lap, Richmond came fighting back, and he was side by side with Stacy Compton. Neither of them wanted to give up a single inch, and they took it all the way to the finish, and Tim Richmond steals it. He wins in a photo finish over Stacy Compton in what was one of the most exciting moments of the 2001 season, and certainly one that many fans will remember for years to come. 4 races to go in the season, and our tight points battle headed to Talladega Park. We had a fun one with Scott Bloomquist on pole, looking for a good run amid his somewhat disappointing campaign. He led early, but our 2 biggest contenders in Cindy Peterson and Tim Richmond traded spots at the front off pit strategy. But as we know, racing is a team sport, and a good pit call can change everything. All of our leaders ran late, and while Peterson was the highest among them and had fresh tires, she could not catch up to Dennis Setzer and Ted Musgrave, 2 veterans who ended up pitting sooner. Setzer was ahead of them all and managed to use his old tires and stay out in front to take the Petty 43 truck to victory lane. This was Dennis Setzer's first career Truck Series win and his first NASCAR national win since 1995 when he ran in the Busch Series, and that race was at Louisville. After Talladega, Tim Richmond only had a 13-point lead over Stacy Compton and a 78-point lead over Jack Sprague. Peterson and Roper were there, and if things went their way, they could easily be in the hunt for the championship. Jack Sprague finally earned his first win of the season at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Then at Gateway, it was a dominating performance by one of St. Louis's own, that being Rusty Wallace, as he completes the first race of the St. Louis triple header. Going into the final race at Las Vegas, Stacy Compton led the standings by just 37 points over Tim Richmond and 41 points over Cindy Peterson. And here we are at the Orleans 350, the site of the 2001 season finale for the Craftsman Super Truck Series season. It all comes down to this, as Greg Biffle and Brendan Gong lead the field to the green flag to kick off the race in the Sin City. Biffle, still in search of his first win, led the opening laps. But on lap 27, Ernie Irvan took the lead from Biffle, who had been on his tail since the start. Right after that was a round of green flag pit stops in what has so far been a clean race. Right after that, Tim Richmond took control of the race and led all the way to the final round of pit stops with 13 to go. Richmond and Irvan both came out together, as Richmond needed all the points he could get to stay ahead of Stacy Compton. Richmond led until 11 to go when Ernie Irvan took the lead. Meanwhile, Stacy Compton had just taken 7th place and might just have enough for the championship. Richmond and Irvan, meanwhile, had to deal with the lap truck of Randy McDonald, and while Stacy Compton was passed by his own teammate Scott Bloomquist for 7th, with 4 laps to go, Irvan powered back on the outside, and with 3 to go, Irvan cleared Tim Richmond for the lead. As Ernie Irvan would take the checkered flag, Tim Richmond was 2nd, and Stacy Compton was 8th. After the dust settled, the champion was decided by just 4 points. Your 2001 NASCAR Craftsman Super Truck Series champion is Stacy Compton. What an insane end to the season, and once again, Tim Richmond comes up short. 2 years in a row on what could have been. Stacy Compton, meanwhile, pulls it off in what was an intense battle for the championship, as he earned 3 wins, 10 top 5s, and 18 top 10s, with an average finish of 9.6. This also marks Irvin Simo's 3rd Truck Series championship, as Brian Reffner took it home in 1998, and then just last season was Chris Trickle, and now Stacy Compton joins that elite group. A big congratulations to Stacy Compton and Irvin Simo as we take a look at your winners this season and the final standings from what was an exciting 2001 NASCAR Craftsman Super Truck Series season. Second year in a row, heartbreak for Tim Richmond, as Jack Sprague, Cindy Peterson, and Michael Waltrip all had great seasons. Greg Biffle finishing 7th in points despite not getting a win. Kurt Busch also had a solid year, finishing in 8th. One of the most impressive breakout stars was John Wood. While he did finish 12th in points, he did pick up 3 wins, and I'm sure he's going to build off that momentum going into 2002. It seems like he can only get better from here. Now we move on to the 2001 IROC Series, as we saw Ernie Irvan take home the IROC title last season. IROC has been dominated by Ford Winston Cup Series drivers in recent years, with the likes of Irvan, Sterling Marlin, and Rusty Wallace. Will we see a similar trend again this year, or will someone else step into the spotlight? Here's a look at this year's lineup for IROC 2001, as you see champions such as Rusty Wallace, Joe DeFerrin, Frank Kimmel, Blaze Alexander, and Mark Skife, as well as icons like Shauna Robinson, Alan Kowicki, Kyle Petty, and Rob Moroso. The field is stacked, and it'll be exciting to see who will come out on top. Once again, the schedule remains the same for 2001, with Daytona, Calder Park, Michigan, and Indianapolis. As usual, we had another IROC thriller at Daytona. Blaze Alexander was 6th with 3 to go, as Alan Kowicki was leading at the time. Then V8 champion Mark Skife went for the lead, and Alexander joined him to work Skife past Kowicki. Then we hit 2 to go, and Blaze Alexander made the move on Mark Skife for the lead going into turns 1 and 2. Blaze Alexander cleared him, and he would hold off Frank Kimmel and Rusty Wallace to win at Daytona. Definitely a huge and exciting win for this young star as he gets ready to run for Rookie of the Year in the Winston Cup Series. In the second race at Calder Park, Kyle Petty started on the pole with Rusty Wallace in second, and as they came to green, Jill DeFerrin suddenly had a motor problem and was never able to start the race. A tough break for the kart champion. Petty led for the first 12 laps, but then after that, it was Rusty Wallace taking the lead. Then by lap 35, here we go again. Rusty Wallace versus Shauna Robinson. Green flag pit stops took place about 5 laps later, and after that, Shauna Robinson took the lead with Rusty Wallace in second. Wallace kept close to Shauna Robinson, but after the last round of stops, Robinson would pull away with the win in the land down under. Halfway through the races this season, Shauna Robinson holds a 4-point lead over Rusty Wallace and a 9-point lead over Blaze Alexander. Are we potentially looking at another Wallace versus Robinson battle for the championship? Let's now dive into the third race at Michigan, as Kyle Petty led the field to the green flag. But you know how Michigan rolls. Plenty of passing and competition, but towards the end, it felt like the one to beat was Blaze Alexander. Alexander led the field during and after green flag pit stops. However, the caution came out with 7 laps to go when Shauna Robinson got into Rusty Wallace and they get into Kyle Petty, causing a 3-car incident. Blaze Alexander restarted with the lead, but he was quickly bombarded by Paul Tracy. Tracy took the lead and he went on to get the win at Michigan. This follows after Paul Tracy won the US 500 last season. And with that, Shauna Robinson holds a slight lead over Alexander, Tracy, and Rusty Wallace heading into the Brickyard. Time to decide an IROC champion. We got 4 drivers in the running for it, as Shauna Robinson and Rob Moroso led the field to the green flag for 40 laps around the Brickyard. Just a few laps in, however, Juan Pablo Montoya, who had just won the Indy 500 in 2000, took the lead from Robinson. Unfortunately for Robinson, she would drop back and not be a factor in this race or for the championship. After the first round of pit stops, it was Montoya versus Kyle Petty. Meanwhile, one of the contenders was creeping into the picture. That being who else but Rusty Wallace. With 12 to go, Kyle Petty got around Montoya for the lead and was hoping to drive away with the win. But we still had one more round of pit stops with 7 to go. With 5 to go, Kyle Petty remained the leader, but he was being chased down by Mr. 5-time, Rusty Wallace. Then with 3 laps to go, Rusty Wallace took the lead from Kyle Petty, and he would drive away with the win at the very track his boss has conquered for so many years. Paul Tracy finished in 5th, Blaze Alexander was 7th, and Shauna Robinson was 11th. And with that win, Rusty Wallace earned enough points to once again be crowned the IROC champion for 2001. This now marks Rusty's 4th IROC championship, and this is his 4th title in 6 years. And within those 6 years, they have all been won by Ford Winston Cup drivers. A NASCAR driver has also won the IROC title every year dating back to 1995. While Rusty wins his 4th IROC title, his eyes are set on a 6th Winston Cup championship. We'll see how his quest for that goes in just a little bit, but first, let's take a look at the winners and your final standings from IROC 2001. Now let's dive into the 2001 NASCAR Busch Series season, as last season we witnessed the breakout of Blaze Alexander as he conquered the series and took home both the championship and the inaugural Slick 50 Heritage Cup. Alexander will be making the move to the Winston Cup, so now it's time to see who could be the next rising star. Taking a look at the schedule, we have one new track joining the circuit. Nashville SuperSpeedway becomes part of the Busch Series for 2001 as it replaces Myrtle Beach. Once again, the Slick 50 Heritage Cup returns for 4 races at historic tracks. Those races for 2001 will be Daytona, Texas World, Watkins Glen, and Talladega. One note to make about later in the season, as a result of this schedule arrangement, Dover falls on the weekend of September 15th, the postponed race weekend. This leads to Dover being rescheduled for Thanksgiving weekend instead of New Hampshire, becoming the season finale for 2001. In real life, New Hampshire's postponed weekend only hosted the Winston Cup, scheduled for Black Friday to have multiple days in the event of snow. Because of the need to host 2 races, as well as Dover's slightly warmer climate, the Busch Series finale will be held on Black Friday, with the Winston Cup finale hosted on Saturday. The NASCAR Busch Series Championship is wide open in 2001, with last year's top 2 in points moving up to the Winston Cup Series. Blaze Alexander earned a historic title for Penske last year, and this year the number 2 car will instead feature a rotation of drivers, and we'll touch on who in a bit. 4 rookies, including 2 lower series champions, will fight for the Rookie of the Year title in 2001. The Super Sportsman champion J.D. Gibbs moves up to a second Busch car for his father's team. The number 17 Sprint PCS Pontiac will sponsor Gibbs, with Casey Atwood remaining in the Hot Rod Magazine 18 car. Ricky Hendrick will drive his father's number 51 full-time in the series this season. You may remember he had an incredible win in just his second start last year. This year, he looks to add on to his win total and give Hendrick Motorsports something to be excited about. Meanwhile, last year's Craftsman Super Truck champion Chris Trickle also moves up to the Busch Series and does so with a new team, AK Racing. AK Racing opens a single-car Busch Series program for Trickle, who stole the championship last season driving for the Irvin Simo team. Interstate Batteries will be the primary sponsor for the team as well. We'll touch more on this later, but Interstate leaves Joe Gibbs' Winston Cup team and joins AK Racing as Trickle's sponsor, as well as a secondary sponsor for Alan Kowicki. And lastly, for the rookies, is another with a new team. Marty Houston, the son of 1989 Busch champion Tommy Houston, will drive the number 8 for Highline Performance Group. The biggest move of the offseason, meanwhile, came for the Jarrett Favre 32 car, now a Dodge team, as they make their return to NASCAR. Kelly Williams took this car to second place last season, and this year the ride goes to a driver looking for a big break, California's Kevin Harvick. Dodge saw potential in Harvick and signed the young driver on to join the 32 team. John Andretti remains in the 82 car for Dodge. Dodge will support 2 full-time teams in 2001 with Jared Farr's 2 cars as well as a pair of cars for PPC Racing. The number 10 Nesquik Dodge of Toby Porter as well as the number 57 Kleenex Dodge for Jason Keller. Dodge will also run a part-time car for both Bill and Casey Elliott under the Bill Elliott Racing banner. As for what happens at Glory Rahal Racing, where Harvick drove last year, the team sticks around thanks to their increased success. They bring in Bobby Labonte from the closed Labonte Motorsports team, and they have a new sponsor in Gain. As for other things to note, Lance Hooper moves into the number 37 Timberwolf car at Bruco. Elton Sawyer will drive the number 48 for Innovative Motorsports following the closure of the 98 car. Ricky Johnson will remain in the number 38 with new sponsor Great Clips. And after Willie T. Ribbs decided to move down to the Super Truck Series, the Washington Urban car is taken over by Dave Blaney, with Amico moving with him as well. After a longer period of successes as an owner than real life, Sam Maher decides to retire and sell his equipment. As for the most notable part-timers, Bill Davis Racing's number 1 car returns, with Jeff Gordon making a number of starts, but joining him is fellow dirt racer Ryan Newman, who looks to make a splash as he transitions to NASCAR. The Penske 2 car will feature 4 drivers in 2001, as Blaze Alexander will run the most races, including the 4 Heritage Cup races. Matt Kenseth will return to the Busch Series to run some races, and as previously mentioned, Rusty Wallace will run a one-off at his home race at Gateway. Now, who's the 4th driver in that rotation? He'll be Penske's go-to for standalone weekends in the Busch Series, a driver who's been racing for Penske in another series, open-wheel star Greg Moore. In real life, Moore signed on to join Penske's kart team in 2000, just months before his passing. And according to Tony Kanaan, the Canadian was serious about eventually making the transition to NASCAR. Penske's rotation will give him the opportunity to run 5 races in 2001, primarily standalone Busch Series events that come during kart's off weeks. Lastly, Team Sapco, Roush Racing, and Dale Earnhardt Incorporated all continue operating their rotations, primarily for Winston Cup drivers. Patty Moyes, Mark Martin, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Tony Stewart will all run the 4 Heritage Cup races, looking to steal the bonus from our regulars. Jeff Gordon and Casey Elliott will run those races as well. Also notable in the rotation, Ron Fellows will run the road courses for Sapco after his Winston Cup upset last season, and Hideo Fukuyama will again race for DEI at Motegi and Riverside. We had an RCR front row with Jay Sauter on the pole and Jimmy Johnson starting second as the green flag waves on the 2001 NASCAR Busch Series season. It was a fun, exciting, and relatively clean race, as the race had many contenders like Jeff Gordon, both PPC drivers in Toby Porter and Jason Keller, and Ron Hornaday. Stanton Barrett led with 10 laps to go and did all he could to hold off the pack. But with 5 to go, John Andretti took control of the lead, looking to join Mario Andretti as a winner at Daytona, but that was short-lived when Johnny Benson took the lead with 4 to go. Then coming to 2 laps to go, rookie Ricky Hendrick took the lead and had to hold off a charging Randy LaJoie as well as Jimmy Johnson and Blaze Alexander. In the end, Ricky Hendrick held them all off and he would take home the win at Daytona. Is Ricky Hendrick a superstar in the making? We now head over to race 4 at Pikes Peak as Tim Feudua started on the pole and dominated for the first half of the race. However, just a little past halfway, Feudua's engine lets go as he was leading. A tough break for Feudua, but an opportunity rose for a driver looking for his first career win, and that was Chris Trickle. With just around 20 to go, the caution came out for debris, which gave us a restart as it came down to Chris Trickle and Clifford Allison. Then the caution came out with 10 to go when Casey Atwood drove into Steve Park, sending Park into the wall. With the late restart, Allison was all over the back of Trickle trying to find the time to strike, but he wasn't able to, and last year's truck champion, Chris Trickle, gets his first Busch win at Pikes Peak. Tony Stewart started on the pole at Atlanta, but Shauna Robinson would take the lead on lap 4 and dominate all race long. She would go on to win, but with 4 laps to go, Casey Elliott ran into Kevin Harvick going into turn 3. Harvick goes up the track, hits the wall, and you know what happens next. Hornaday runs into him, Kerry Earnhardt slams into Harvick, giving him some air. Clifford Allison, Jason Leveler, Jay Sauter, John Andretti, Jeff Burton were all involved. The race would end under caution, with Shauna Robinson taking home the win. In the next race at Darlington, Jason Leveler started on pole with rookie Marty Houston next to him, as Leveler led for the first handful of laps until Dale Earnhardt Jr. took the lead from him. Then, after lap 40, and after the first round of green flag pit stops, Johnny Benson took over the lead. Then by lap 55, Dale Jr. took the lead back from Benson. Dale Jr. then went to pit on lap 71, but as that happened, the caution came out after Ricky Hendrick drove into Mike Skinner, sending Skinner into the wall. This shuffled Dale Jr. to mid-pack and wasn't able to catch back up, and per usual, a few cars did hit Skinner, such as Adam Petty and Bobby Labonte. The race then restarted on lap 77 as Johnny Benson took the lead back over, and Benson would lead all the way until 5 laps to go when he had to pit for fuel. And right after that, Toby Porter and Jeff Burton got into each other and went up into Ron Hornaday, bringing out the race-ending caution for the second race in a row. Hornaday made contact with Leveler as he was trying to get to pit road. Leveler then slid up the track, collecting Atwood, Ricky Johnson, Hut Strickland, and David Green. After the dust settled, it was career win number 2 for Chris Trickle. 6 races in and the defending Super Truck Series champion, already with 2 wins in the Busch Series. On the asphalt short track of Louisiana, it was an off-road front row, as Jimmy Johnson started on pole with his former mentor Ricky Johnson beside. Jimmy Johnson led for the first stage of the race, but a caution during pit stop set up his teammate Jay Sauter and the bushwhacking champion Blaze Alexander to fight for the lead. Sauter and Alexander battled all afternoon, and Jeff Burton was ready to make it a 3-car fight, but Jay Sauter took the lead in the final 10 laps and held on for a win that'll give him a much-needed boost. In the 10th race of the season at Nazareth, Jimmy Johnson scored the pole with Adam Petty starting second as Johnson looked to be the favorite to win. He led until green flag pit stops around the halfway point, but Jimmy Johnson was shifted back to 4th. Adam Petty was 3rd, Kevin Harvick was 2nd, and in the lead was Jeff Burton of Base Motorsports. Harvick tried everything he could to run him down, but it was Jeff Burton picking up his first Busch Series win since 1994 and the first win for Base Motorsports. Also to note, Greg Moore, driving for Penske, finished 9th in his debut. We now take a first look at the Busch Series standings for 2001, and Jimmy Johnson is winning the game of consistency so far despite not getting a win yet. He holds a 194-point lead over Chris Trickle. The second ever Busch Series race in Japan was a crazy one, as Jeff Gordon led the field in the early going, but was then challenged by points leader Jimmy Johnson. They swapped the lead back and forth a couple times, then close to halfway the leaders began to pit. Jerry Nadeau was an early front runner, but unfortunately he and Johnson were hit with speeding penalties on pit road. The lead then went to Gordon, who had Toby Porter and a lapped Chris Trickle on his tail. Then, Trickle worked his way past Gordon and Porter late in the going. With 4 laps to go, Jeff Gordon had to pit, then the next time around, Porter had to pit as well. The leaders could not make it on fuel at all, and it turned into quite the cluster as to who was going to win. However, as the leader Jason Leveler went to pit, Mike Wallace crashed into the pit road wall to bring up the caution with 2 laps to go. The leader, once the field was frozen, was Toby Porter. Toby Porter would bring home the checkered flag and earn his first Busch Series win, and where else but an international race. This also marks the first Busch Series win for Dodge and PPC Racing. A few races later at the Milwaukee Mile, Adam Petty started on the pole, but the one that looked fast in the first half was Jimmy Johnson. Johnson quickly found his way to the lead and stayed there until the first set of pit stops on lap 44. Johnson, however, got jumped by the number 9 of Johnny Benson, as Johnson had to settle for second. It stayed this way until under 30 to go, when we had our final set of green flag pit stops. As those were wrapping up, Kerry Earnhardt crashed into the pit road wall, bringing out the caution. Johnny Benson continued to lead after the restart, as Greg Moore had worked his way up to third. But then a wreck started by Buckshot Jones, Mike Wallace, and Dave Blaney that led to a pileup in turn 3 caused another yellow. With 13 to go, Jimmy Johnson finally caught up to Johnny Benson and he took the lead. When it looked like he was finally going to get a win this season, Johnny Benson came charging back. He had the opportunity with 4 laps to go and couldn't complete it. Then he tried again, and they were side by side coming to the white flag, and coming back around, it was Johnny Benson picking up his first win since Mid-Ohio in 1997. Jimmy Johnson, once again, comes so close. This next race may be on the East Coast, but this race had California fever. Kevin Harvick started on the pole as he looked to break his winless drought at his new team, and looking to do it on a road course again, no less. While he ran up front early, he was outdone by the bushwhacker Jeff Gordon, who pulled ahead and dominated late. Harvick, however, got a great momentum boost with a second place, and Jimmy Johnson slowly climbed to third to make it an all-California podium. After 15 races, Jimmy Johnson holds a 153-point lead over John Andretti. Johnny Benson worked his way to third as he's 282 points back. The second ever Busch Series race at SoCal saw who else but SoCal drivers leading the way. Jimmy Johnson started on the pole with a hot Kevin Harvick beside him in second. And the two put on a thrilling show for the crowd, as them and Shauna Robinson went 3 wide for the lead multiple times. Johnson had the car and better pit stops to pull ahead. After stops, he was instead challenged by Ron Hornaday Jr., another California driver. Jimmy had to deal with lap traffic late that gave Hornaday as well as Tim Futua and Kerry Earnhardt a chance to steal. But Johnson worked his way through the outside line and built a lap traffic buffer. Jimmy Johnson finally gets his first win of the season, and while he started on pole, it was never easy. But in the end, Johnson gets the job done at one of his home tracks. At New Hampshire, Jerry Nadeau dominated from the pole for most of the race. That was until 30 laps to go when Kelly Earnhardt took the lead from Nadeau. Then, with 22 laps to go, the caution came out when Jeff Burton got into Jason Keller, nearly taking his teammate Toby Porter with him as Keller spun into the wall. After pit stops, Jason Leveler was out in front with Kelly Earnhardt in second. Leveler was looking to finally secure his first NASCAR win. With 13 laps to go, another driver looking for his Busch Series win took the lead, that being Stanton Barrett. In the closing laps, Barrett had to hold off a charging Adam Petty, and he did. Stanton Barrett goes on to win at New Hampshire for his first career win in the NASCAR Busch Series. A huge win for the stuntman, but even with Barrett's win, Jimmie Johnson's points lead only continued to grow. The inaugural race at this 1.33-mile track began with a thrilling battle that spilled over from last week. The two California kids, Jimmie Johnson and Kevin Harvick. They were the two best cars early and battled back and forth. Harvick finally got the upper hand and drove away a bit, but pit strategy changed halfway through after a big accident where Adam Petty got spun and collected Jimmie Johnson, who had just pitted, as well as a few others. Harvick was relegated to 5th on the start, with Jay Sauter and Toby Porter the new leaders. Ricky Hendrick actually had a great restart from 3rd to take the lead and lead a few laps. But Porter would have the better long-run car and manage traffic better than the rest. Toby Porter and PPC Racing get their second win of the season and the second of Porter's career. Bobby Labonte started on the pole at IRP, but dropped like a rock, and the race was dominated by Adam Petty on the outside line. Hometown hero Tony Stewart ran second for a while, but he got caught up in trouble on pit road and lost his position. We did have one notable yellow in this one with Toby Porter in an accident that Jimmie Johnson caught a piece of. Jimmie continued but finished a lap down, and that took another blow to his standings lead. Up front, however, it was all number 40, as Adam Petty finally gets his first win in over a year, bringing back the Yahoo Pontiac to victory lane. At Watkins Glen, the top two in points were the best in this one, with Jimmie Johnson looking to rebound from pole position, but fighting John Andretti and Tony Stewart, both of whom are strong here. Johnson led the vast majority of the race, but on the long run, Andretti got to the inside of Stewart and nearly went 3 wide. Andretti got the run he needed in the S's, pushing Jimmie to the outside, and Andretti made it stick and pulled away in the closing laps. He gets his second win of the season at this point, at a time when he needs it to catch Jimmie Johnson. Here we are in Michigan. It was definitely another thriller, as we saw names like Kerry Earnhardt, Kevin Harvick, and Jason Keller up in the mix. However, with 12 laps to go, we had what would eventually be our upset special taking the lead from Jay Sauter. That man being Mike Wallace. While he was challenged by Jay Sauter and Jason Keller in the closing laps, it wasn't enough, and Mike Wallace picks up his first Busch Series win since 1994 and the second win this season for Base Motorsports. This wild race at Richmond saw Ron Hornaday on the pole, before the early battle for the lead was between Ricky Hendrick and then John Andretti and Dave Blaney. We had a yellow at halfway for Jimmie Johnson spinning off Jeff Burton, but he continued as the Blaney and Andretti battle went on. That was until a final round of stops with 15 to go when things got bonkers. Bobby Labonte took a short pit to get track position and insert himself in the front pack before Brian Reffner, one of 2 cars who had yet to pit, spun off the 2 of Matt Kenseth. Despite being short on fuel, Reffner was able to restart second by staying out. We had 2 drivers who tried to make it on fuel, Kerry Earnhardt and Brian Reffner, followed by Hornaday, Andretti, and Labonte behind some lappers. Hornaday got the jump on the cars with new tires and ran down Reffner, and right as he did, Kerry Earnhardt ran out with 4 to go and had to pit. He passed the lead off to the younger Labonte, and the curse is finally over. For the first time since the 1996 Busch Clash, Bobby Labonte goes to victory lane. The 24th race at Darlington featured an interesting start as Clifford Allison started on the pole and Kerry Earnhardt rocketed around on the start to take the lead. Kerry had the best car in the early run, but Jimmie Johnson and bushwhacking Shauna Robinson ran him down, and led until a late yellow for Mike Wallace and Steve Park. This allowed Earnhardt, as well as Jason Leveler and Toby Porter, to return to the front off-pit strategy. Porter had a great jump and went to the lead with the help of Ricky Hendrick and Jason Leveler, who tried desperately to get by for his first win, but he would run out of time, and the Nesquik dodge of Toby Porter picks up a third win in a dramatic finish. Wilkes County, North Carolina saw some Chevy domination in this one, with Ron Hornaday on pole and Jimmy Johnson and Jay Sauter running up front. But they had to contend with Clifford Allison, who slowly returned to form lately and is looking for a win, but just has yet to make it stick. Allison led the most laps, but Sauter got him in the long run. We had major championship implications after a big wreck for the lapper of Lance Hooper, and Kevin Harvick took out Ricky Hendrick and Jimmy Johnson, giving Benson and Andretti a chance to close in on points. But despite Johnson being out, it was his teammate Jay Sauter earning his third win of the year. Johnny Benson led the field to the green flag at Memphis alongside Jimmy Johnson. However, Johnson began to get shuffled back while Benson would hang on to the lead. The first caution came out on lap 11 when Jason Keller and JD Gibbs got together on the track. Then on lap 34 we had a similar looking incident, this time being Marty Houston and the 34 of Bill Lester. With 25 laps to go, Johnny Benson was then challenged by Kevin Harvick, and he would lose the lead. Harvick would lead the rest of the way, as the caution came out with 3 laps to go when the 5 of Jimmy Spencer broke down and Mike Skinner in the 16 ran into him, collecting Elliott Sadler and Brian Refner in the process. Kevin Harvick finally snaps a winless drought, and he goes on to win at Memphis. A pretty competitive race at Lowe's Motor Speedway with both bushwhackers and regulars leading at different points. Team Sapco was the team to beat early, with Shauna Robinson on pole and Adam Petty taking the lead on the start. But Jeff Gordon was the best car of the race, and on the long run, Stanton Barrett weaved his way through the field and he led some laps. But he had a bad pit stop and fell to third. Jeff Gordon reclaimed the lead and held off John Andretti, the new most consistent driver after Jimmy's rough races, to take home the win. As we take a look at the standings after the race at Lowe's Motor Speedway, Johnson has slipped enough to hand the points lead to John Andretti. But now the question is, in the last handful of races, can Jimmy Johnson fight back? As for the next race, it's time to open a brand new track. The inaugural Busch Series race at Kansas Speedway saw domination from Team Sapco, with Shauna Robinson on pole as a bushwhacker, but Adam Petty taking the lead in the opening laps and not looking back for a while. Petty looked like he'd run away the whole race, but Shauna Robinson reeled him in during the second stretch of the race and took the lead, pulling the way before the final pit stops evened the playing field. Tony Stewart at DEI short pit and nearly got the lead from Shauna, but despite a few attempts to make a move from her bumper, the former Cup champion was too hard to handle. Shauna Robinson wins the inaugural race at Kansas, as Adam Petty steals second on the final lap for a Sapco 1-2. Jimmy Johnson came home in fourth, and John Andretti in fifth. Then we hop on I-70 and drive across the state of Missouri for the next race, as Jerry Nadeau started on pole in this one, with Rusty Wallace starting third as he looks for a gateway sweep in this one-off. We had an early yellow for Bill Lester going around into Hut Strickland and Eric Jones on lap 3, with the leader John Andretti getting a small piece of it, but continuing. A mid-race restart provided a wild moment, with Rusty Wallace going for the lead, battling Tim Fudua, and even pushing him up the track. Rusty took the lead and held onto it for a while before a caution with 9 laps to go, bunching up the field. Rusty had to battle Stanton Barrett, who got to his side at the white thanks to a lapped car of Steve Park in the 43, but he couldn't get the run. Rusty Wallace holds on to win the Busch Series race at Gateway, and he will sweep the lower series. But can he finish the deal in the Winston Cup in due time? We'll have to find out in a bit. Heading into Homestead with just 3 races to go, Jimmie Johnson had a 70-point lead over John Andretti. A Sapco dominant day similar to Kansas, as Adam Petty started on the pole with Patty Moyes beside. Petty led early, but having a great day was Ricky Hendrick, who finally had led some laps before passing the lead off to Patty Moyes later. Moyes ran away with it while Andretti and Trickle had a great battle for second. Trickle took second and Andretti third, while Moyes goes on to give the Sapco 45 rotation its 4th win in 5 races. And somehow, all 4 came with different drivers. Jimmie Johnson had an off day and finished in 15th, shrinking his title lead to just 23 points over John Andretti. John Andretti qualified 30th for this race, and Jimmie Johnson started in the top 10, but would fall back to 16th quick. Adam Petty was on the pole and ran away with it for a while, with teammates Shauna Robinson and Tim Fudua. But where things got wild was the final stretch, where the whole field needed a splash and go. Johnson and Andretti pitted on the same lap, so it didn't affect their own title bout. But Petty pulled ahead of Shauna, and little did he know, one single driver would stretch it and make it to the end on fuel, and it was the home state hero. Sound the siren. Bill Elliott, in his own bushwhacking car, gets his first overall win since 1996, and his first Busch win since all the way back in 1983, the second ever season for the Busch Series. What a memorable moment for the fans of Atlanta in this one. As for the title fight, Jimmie Johnson finished 12th and John Andretti finished 22nd. Johnson will have a 53-point advantage heading into the finale. And here we are, Dover, Delaware, the unexpected host to the final race of the Busch Series season. A young rising star versus a driver looking for a redemption arc and looking to add to the family legacy as well. Who is going to come out on top? Jerry Nadeau led the field to the green flag, but just 2 laps in, we already had a caution for Randy LaJoie going for a spin. After that, Jerry Nadeau drove away from the field, while Kevin Harvick worked his way to second. Things appeared to be calm until close to 40 to go, when Clifford Allison ran into Chris Trickle, sending Trickle up the track, and then Jerry Nadeau had nowhere to go and slammed into Trickle. Brian Newman also got a piece of the wreck, and this took the leader out of the running. Johnny Benson led the field back to the green flag, but right away, that was taken away when Kevin Harvick went 3 wide and took the lead. Andretti was running in the top 10 all race long, while Jimmie Johnson was close to him. The season would end under caution when Kerry Earnhardt ran into Dave Blaney, sending them both into the wall. Jeff Burton and a few others got a piece of the wreck too, as Kevin Harvick went on to lead the rest of the way and would take home his 2nd win of the season, while Jimmie Johnson worked his way to 3rd and John Andretti finished 5th. In the final 30 laps, Johnson went from as low as 14th to work his way all the way to 3rd. With that huge surge, it came in clutch, as that would hand the 2001 NASCAR Busch Series Championship to El Cajon, California's Jimmie Johnson. Johnson had an incredibly strong, consistent season, and despite a few bumps in the road during the second half, Johnson was able to come out on top as he and John Andretti put on a remarkable fight for the championship this season. Jimmie Johnson has been a big name that's risen through the ranks in recent years, and I'm sure he'll be in the Winston Cup Series very soon. Let's now take a look at all the winners as well as the final standings and the Slick 50 Heritage Cup for the 2001 NASCAR Busch Series season. Stars were made and winless droughts were snapped, as Toby Porter and Jay Sauter both tied with the most wins at 3, but consistency was the name of the game, as Jimmy Johnson and John Andretti were easily the class of the field. Jay Sauter with 3 wins finished 11th in points, while Toby Porter finished 16th. But I'm sure both drivers are looking forward to a big year in 2002. While Jimmy Johnson took home the championship, one of his close friends ended up taking home the Heritage Cup Championship. And for the second year in a row, that championship went to Blaze Alexander. Alexander does it again. And now it is time for the 2001 NASCAR Winston Cup Series, where last year it was a fun battle between Rusty Wallace and Shauna Robinson, with Wallace taking home his 5th Winston Cup Series championship. And now he begins his quest for 6, as well as finally winning that elusive Daytona 500. The 2001 Winston Cup season sees 2 schedule changes, one of which you saw already. Kansas Speedway has been built, and it will host its inaugural Cup race in the fall. It takes the place of the spring Dover race. Additionally, Darlington gets its second points race back after hosting the All-Star race last year. As for this year's All-Star race, we have a notable host, the Nashville Fairgrounds, and here's why. With Nashville SuperSpeedway opening in the suburbs, a track with more space and better amenities, NASCAR will be moving their Winston Cup date to Nashville SuperSpeedway in 2002. NASCAR will be supporting the fairgrounds as a track for the lower series for years to come, and closes out the Winston Cup's chapter at the track with a marquee all-star event, the Fairgrounds Farewell. As we've discussed, there's no story bigger heading into the 2001 season than Dodge's return to the Winston Cup Series. Let's begin with their lineup. As previously mentioned, Ray Evernham is buying out most of the Elliott Melling Marino team to become the Dodge flagship. Bill Elliott will remain in the new look number 9 car, still sponsored by Coors Light, while young Casey Elliott pilots the number 94 Pepsi Dodge. The 1993 champion Ricky Rudd pilots the third Evernham car, the number 19 Dodge. This car will feature 2 primary sponsors, Dodge dealers sporting an all-red look for Speed Weeks, and some other events, and longtime sponsor Gatorade, who remains with Rudd in a smaller capacity following their purchase by PepsiCo. Chip Ganassi Racing is all new to the Winston Cup Series, having purchased the Speed Schoonover SS Motorsports team. To start up their program, Chip has brought in 2 veterans. In the new number 01 car is Ken Schrader. He makes a Winston Cup comeback after some winning years with Dodge in the Truck Series. Meanwhile, in his second car, the number 85 Dodge, is the Iceman, Terry Labonte. After a disappointing set of seasons and a long winless drought, Terry Labonte leaves Joe Gibbs Racing to pursue this new opportunity. Terry Schoonover, meanwhile, retires from full-time racing, but will remain involved with this team and run 3 races in a third car, his home races at Atlanta, as well as the Southern 500. Jared Farr Motorsports is now a 2-car Dodge team. Tommy Kendall remains in the Sony number 32 car, but in their new number 82 sits Kelly Williams, last year's Busch runner-up, who looks like she could become a late-blooming star. Home Depot moves up with her and sports a new look on the 82. And lastly, Dodge did have one more team join their fray, the Celebrity Motorsports team, which Rudd raced for last year in their inaugural season. They have a new look for 2001 with new sponsor Valvoline and a new driver as well, Kenny Wallace, looking for his first win since 1995. Dodge has a diverse array of drivers looking to help kickstart their program, and with the amount of veterans on the team, it will be equally exciting to see them grow throughout the coming decade as new stars enter the picture. A few quick sponsor notes before we continue. With Valvoline moving to the 63 car, Tim Steele has a new sponsor at Roush Racing in Motorola. Motorola left Hendrick Motorsports with the number 5 of Davey Allison picking up his new sponsor in UAW Delphi. The newest sponsor of them all, however, is UPS. who signed on for the biggest single car sponsorship in NASCAR history up to that point. Now, who do they sign with in this timeline? That would be the 42 team of Kyle Petty. Kyle Petty switches from bright green to the white and brown in 2001, with Mel scaling back their partnership to a few races and a personal deal, while UPS takes the primary. He wants to race the truck, but a Pontiac will do. Another big story has to do with what's going on at Joe Gibbs Racing. Gibbs has had a very unique legacy to this point, being unable to get his Cup team to victory lane, but being a force to be reckoned with in NASCAR's lower series. With this in mind, Gibbs makes a bold change and turns to one of his former players. Joe Gibbs and Mark Rypien are merging their operations, with Chad Little, the former Daytona 500 winner and Busch Series champion, taking over the number 17 car. The team enters a new era with another driver proven to win, and is looking to finally break through. As previously mentioned, Interstate Batteries is now a partner of AK Racing, and new sponsor DeWalt Tools takes over at Gibbs. Last year's Busch Series champion goes full-time in a Ford Penske car, the number 02 Mobil 1 Ford. Blaze Alexander and Kelly Williams will compete for Rookie of the Year. After his one-year deal at AJ Foyt with DEI, Dale Earnhardt Jr. moves over to his father's team, and the number 8 gets a new style on the Oreo Chevrolet. The Foyt car is taken over by Jeremy Mayfield, moving over from the shuttered American Equipment team. This car is renumbered to the 41 since the 14 is taken, and Conseco Bank takes over as the primary sponsorship. As for other full-time changes, Joe Nemechek takes over the number 4 at Morgan McClure Motorsports, and Todd Bodine takes over the Haas Carter team from the retiring Darrell Waltrip, renumbered to 26. This team's former sponsor, Tide, moves over to sponsor the MB236 team of Wally Dallenbach. As in real life, MB2 also takes in the former Tyler Jet 10 team, with Bobby Hamilton staying in the car. Lastly, Al Unser Jr. remains in the 33 for Andy Petrie, but Squarity takes over sponsorship of the team. Warner's sponsorship heads to Richard Childress Racing, where America Online will become a secondary sponsor for Rob Moroso, as well as their part-time team. Childress's part-time team will be split between Busch champ Jimmy Johnson at a variety of tracks, his teammate Jay Sauter at a pair of short tracks, and Chevy's new stock GT driver Boris Said at 3 road courses. As for other notable part-timers, Sapco's 47 car remains for a few races each for Ron Fellows and Adam Petty, and Robbie Gordon remains in the 27 car for Eel River Racing, now sponsored by Dukes Mayo. Tim Richmond will run a few Cup races in a 4th Hendrick car once again. The Wood Brothers Racing rotation gets a refresh, as Dick Trickle will remain the primary driver, but 2 lower series champions will also get their chance at the Cup level. Former truck champion Tony Roper will run a handful of races, including the Daytona 500, while the stock GT champion Mark Simo will do some road course ringing. New team BAM Racing will enter a few races, split between Greg Sachs and Andy Hillenberg, while David Keith and Dave Blaney will split the new Team CLR ride. Busch Series driver Ricky Johnson will run a few races in Michael Kranofus's new 84 team, and Hermie Sadler will also run a few races in the number 13 for Score Motorsports. 20 drivers, 20 laps, all for bragging rights, as Kyle Petty led the field to the green flag, sporting in his new UPS colors to kick off the Budweiser shootout. The dominant car of the day belonged to the number 1 McDonald's Ford of Jeff Gordon, as he led for the second half of the race. Behind him was the Swede Kenny Brack, looking to give Hendrick Motorsports some momentum moving forward. With 2 laps to go, Kenny Brack went to the inside of Gordon going into turn 1, and Kenny Brack took the lead. However, he had to hold off the veterans of Ricky Rudd and Alan Kawicki, and down the backstretch and into turn 3, Ricky Rudd found the right time to strike. Ricky Rudd gets by Kenny Brack coming to the checkers, and a statement was made by Dodge right away. Ricky Rudd collects the win at the Bud Shootout in his new ride at Evernham Motorsports. This was also Rudd's second shootout win, as he won it back in 1985. Let's hop over to the Gatorade Twin 125s, as Tony Stewart scored the pole for the 43rd Daytona 500, and he led the field alongside his teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. to the green flag to kick off the first dual race. It was a clean and calm race as it ran with no cautions. Towards the end, Chad Little led the way with 3 laps to go, with Carl Long in second? Indeed, that is true, and Rodney Orr in the 73 was in the mix too, but the stronger cars prevailed as Alan Kulwicki surged his way to the lead, coming to the white flag, but then Jeff Green pounced on the final lap. Green had the lead, but Tony Stewart came charging at the last second. He runs out of time, and Jeff Green hangs on to win Duel 1, and he will start third in the Great American Race. Jeff Gordon won the pole for the second dual race, with John Nemechek starting along him, and the race was very similar to dual race number 1, calm and no wrecks. Matt Kenseth and Mark Martin were leading towards the end, then Martin led the way with 3 laps to go. But then on the final lap, and once again in turn 3, Ricky Rudd did the same thing as he did in the shootout, and Ricky Rudd will win dual race number 2, and he will start 4th in the Daytona 500. It was a stacked field of drivers trying to make the race, which meant some drivers had to go home. Those who did not qualify for the Great American Race were Rick Mast, Bobby Hamilton, Tammy Jo Kirk, Todd Bodine, Morgan Shepherd, Ward Burton, Jeremy Mayfield, Tony Roper, and Al Unser Jr. The day is February 18th, 2001. It's a picture-perfect day in Daytona Beach, Florida, and we are set and ready to go for another NASCAR Winston Cup Series season, and perhaps one of the most anticipated Daytona 500s in NASCAR history. And there behind the pace car, 42 fast race cars, 42 drivers who have inched and clawed their way. All these crews that have worked all through the winter months, throughout the off season, it all comes down to this very moment. Many stories are about to be written. Keep an eye on the pace car, about to make that hard left down pit road. Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon will lead the field of 42 drivers looking to chase a dream to the start. Terry Bradshaw has the green flag in hand, ready to go, and the 43rd Daytona 500 is underway. Down the backstretch for the first time this afternoon, as Tony Stewart will lead the field down. Jeff Green behind him, but Sterling Marlin fields an inside line with Alan Kulwicki, the 1998 winner. Stewart dips down back to the inside as they go into turns 3 and 4. And look at this, a picture-perfect start to the Great American Race as Sterling Marlin works his way to second. Roger Penske has yet to win a Daytona 500. Especially, we talked about Rusty Wallace, but Penske now has 4 cars, 4 full-time cars this season for 2001, and one of them is about to take the lead from our pole sitter, the 22 of Sterling Marlin, who has had a really good career ever since joining Penske. But can he get a marquee win here today? Behind Sterling Marlin, the 1991 winner. He won this race a decade ago with his family operation. That's Eddie Bierschwell driving for Cal Wells' PPI Motorsports. But he gets shoved up high. Here comes Wally Dawn back in the 36. And Chad Little, he won this race 2 years ago. That was with Mark Rypian, who is now teamed up with Joe Gibbs this season. Their teams merged. A new look on that 17 team. Can they get a good start of the season? Perhaps make some noise. Terry Labonte also in the mix, the former driver of that 17 car. One of the new Dodge teams this season, up there in the top 5 as they head back into turns 1 and 2. Down the backstretch, Sterling Marlin continues to lead in the early going. Chad Little looking for second place here from Wally Dallenbach as they head into turn 3. Plenty of action here early, and still many more to come. This is the Daytona 500. Who is going to join the history books next? Down the backstretch, Shauna Robinson jumps to the inside, and she's looking to take the lead from Sterling Marlin. Kenny Brack, who nearly won the shootout last week, he's going to jump right behind Robinson. Of course, Robinson won this race a year ago for her second win in the Great American Race. Came up close to the championship last year, but she'd like to get a good head start towards running after her second title here today. She leads the Daytona 500. Of course, you remember 1994 when she shocked the world. 95, she almost got it done again. She is chasing her third Daytona 500 victory. On board now with Kenny Brack. Imagine if his first career Cup win came right here in the Daytona 500. Now that would be special. But there's plenty of action left to go, still early in the going, as Kenny Brack now looks to the inside, and he's going to lead the Daytona 500. Hendrick trying to get his team going again, trying to get competitive. He's got Tony Stewart right behind him. There's a lot of competitive drivers hungry for their first career win. Could we see a first-time winner today? 12 laps in, Kenny Brack still holding his lead, doing a very good job out in front. Rookie Kelly Williams is up there in the mix. Of course, that's second edition for Jarrett Farr Motorsports, but she's going to get passed by Rob Moroso, as well as the 19 of Ricky Rudd. Can he sweep Speed Weeks? He won the shootout. He won one of the dual races. Can Ricky Rudd win himself a second Daytona 500? Of course, he was the 1996 winner of this event. That was with Rick Hendrick. That 25 car that's currently leading, funny enough, is now he's sporting those red Dodge colors. Can he give Dodge their first Daytona 500 back? On board with the 25 of Brack, and now you see Sterling Marlin going to the inside. You see rookie Blaze Alexander, Marlin's new teammate for this year. Of course, we talked about how Penske expanded to 4 cars, but Alexander's going to stay outside. Jeff Green's going to follow suit with Sterling Marlin, and Sterling Marlin will take the lead right back. And oh, we got trouble in turns 3 and 4. Jeff Gordon with heavy damage. Chad Little looked to be involved. I'm not sure what exactly happened. We're going to have to pull up the replay. No caution, by the way, as Jeff Gordon pulls off. So here's Jeff Gordon. We're on board with him. Looks like Chad Little may have gotten into contact with, looks like the 85 of Labonte, and oh man, Jeff Gordon just had nowhere to go. A tough break for Gordon. He really wanted to win a Daytona 500, wanted to start the season off strong, but unfortunately, his Daytona 500 hopes are dashed, and just unfortunate for that number 1 McDonald's team here today. The 0-1 of Ken Schrader. He goes to the inside of Sterling Marlin. It's been quite some time since he's led some laps in the Cup Series, but here it is. Ken Schrader out in front in the Daytona 500. Chip Ganassi has a lot of faith in the 2 veterans he signed on, trying to get his team built for the future. I think he's brought in 2 drivers capable of doing some great things with this new team. And here he is, that singular wireless Dodge out in front. Jeff Green is still second. Green's been running really well today. RCR has looked strong so far. Dale Earnhardt also up in the mix. Jeff Green had a great year last year, hoping to build off of that again this year. And Dale Earnhardt peeks to the inside as well. Into turn 1, Earnhardt's going to look to get second from Jeff Green. And he's going to do just that. He chases down Schrader onto the backstretch. And here he comes, the 3-time champion, the 3-time Daytona 500 champion, the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt to the inside of Ken Schrader, and Dale Earnhardt leads the Daytona 500. He's got teammate Jeff Green behind him, Bubba Nissen in third, but in fourth place, Rusty Wallace. He's done it all but win a Daytona 500. Is today finally the day for Rusty Wallace to capture the one race he has yet to win? He's looking good so far, but still plenty of racing left to go. 22 laps are complete. The field is catching Chad Little, who got in that tangle with Jeff Gordon, and that's going to really split the field up as you see Bubba Nissen and Dale Earnhardt run away from the field for the time being. I'm sure the rest of the field will catch back up as Earnhardt stays behind the 59 of Nissen. Nissen has not won since 1997, a 115-race winless drought. He's looking to snap that today, potentially winning his second Daytona 500, but Earnhardt wants his fourth as he goes to the inside of Nissen. But keep in mind, the pack will chase them back down. We'll have to see how that's going to look when they catch him, but Dale Earnhardt takes the lead back here in the Daytona 500 as they come back to the start-finish line. Earnhardt, Nissen, they got quite the gap. Looks like third place is the 94, Casey Elliott. Inserting himself into the equation is the 93 of Paige Jones. You see the 14 of Kelly Earnhardt as well. Kelly Earnhardt, who's had a good track record in the Daytona 500. Of course, won it her rookie year in 1997. She's looking to snap a losing streak as well. Could today be the day for Kelly Earnhardt? We're about to have a father-daughter 1-2 in the Daytona 500. Look at this. That's exactly what we're going to get here. Of the three Earnhardts in the field, I will mention Dale Earnhardt Jr. is also in that pack. But Kelly Earnhardt right behind her father. Could today be the day for Kelly? So much racing left to go, but this is exciting to watch as Kelly Earnhardt dips to the inside of her father, and she's going to take the lead. She's got Kenny Wallace following her. Kenny Wallace joining that Celebrity Motorsports team, joining Dodge, Valvoline as a sponsor. Kenny Wallace looking for another crown jewel win. We have reached the halfway point, and now we're starting to see the leaders come down pit road for green flag pit stops, and this should take everyone to the finish. You see Dale Earnhardt Jr., Tim Steele, and Kelly Earnhardt all on pit road, as pit road is going to get busy as more leaders come on down. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to be running up front. Once this all cycles through, you see the 13 of Brian Reffner. Dale Jr. gets done with his stop. Casey Elliott, Kenny Brack, Wally Dallenbach getting to work now. Their crew's going to work as they try to make picture-perfect pit stops to put them in position to win this race. Just about 30 laps to go. Up front is Rob Moroso, followed by Ernie Irvan. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is third. In fourth place is Robbie Gordon in the 27 for Eel River Racing. That small team, Robbie Gordon back with them again this year, going part-time, and now you see Gordon to the inside of Dale Jr. What a story could this be? Robbie Gordon's going to take second. Tommy Kendall up there in the mix, as well as John Nemechek, but Robbie Gordon, the open-wheel racer, can he win the Great American Race today? Down the backstretch, Moroso still leads. Here comes Steele. Here comes Kendall. They're going to go 3 wide for the lead into turn 3. Moroso, Kendall, Steele, 2 of those drivers looking for their first career win. Then you got a couple siblings back behind them, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kelly Earnhardt. What an exciting battle we have going on here. Tim Steele, a Busch Series champion, a 3-time ARCA champion, still hunting down his first career Winston Cup win. He's going to try and get it done here today with his new sponsor, Motorola. Dale Earnhardt Jr. gives him a push as Tim Steele, the Michigan native, takes the lead. The field has caught Chad Little again, and this will shuffle things up. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Tommy Kendall, Ernie Irvan, they're stuck on the outside, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to lose a ton of ground. The 17 doesn't have quite the speed as the other leaders do. He dips down to the inside, but this is really going to ruin their chances to try and win the Daytona 500. Can Dale Jr. find any way around Chad Little? Under 20 laps to go, looking back from the Haviland Chevrolet of Rob Moroso. Here comes the Burger King Chevrolet, one of Rick Hendrick's 3 cars. That's John Nemechek, still searching for his first career Winston Cup win. And I know for sure that Nemechek is hungry to finally get that win. That is going to be one of his biggest goals this season, is to finally reach victory lane. Can today finally be that day? However, he's got Ernie Irvan right behind him in second. Moroso is there. Robbie Gordon is there. You also see Tim Steele and Kelly Earnhardt. Tommy Kendall back there by himself. Can he catch up to the draft as we go back on board with Robbie Gordon, who could be a threat to win this race today? To the inside, Rob Moroso. Of course, he had that heartbreak back in 1996 that cost him the championship. But can Rob Moroso finally win the Great American Race? This has definitely been one of his biggest goals in his career, is to win the Daytona 500. 15 laps remain. Moroso needs to hang on, but there's still plenty of racing left to go, as Kelly Earnhardt is fighting back as well. 10 laps to go in the Daytona 500, and Richard Childress has all 3 cars running up towards the front. Jeff Green leads, Dale Earnhardt second, Rob Moroso is still up there in the mix. I'm sure RC has got to be feeling great about things right now. Could we see Richard Childress get one of his cars into victory lane? This is it. 5 laps to go, and we're going to take you straight to the finish. Rob Moroso leads. Ernie Irvan is second. Battling for third are Tim Steele and Tommy Kendall. Lots of stories up front. A good handful of drivers trying to finally check off winning the 500. Some just looking for their first Winston Cup victory. There is a lap car ahead. That is the 19 of Ricky Rudd. They're going to have to address that in a little bit, as Tim Steele now goes for second. He gets past the 1999 champion Ernie Irvan. Tim Steele looking strong here. Can he get the job done today as they head back to the start-finish line? 4 laps to go here in Daytona. Moroso continues to lead as they head into turn 1. A look inside Moroso's car, and I tell you what, he's leading this race. These are going to be the longest 4 laps of his career. You just want to get to the finish and cross the line first. As the field approaches Ricky Rudd, who lost the draft, Moroso's going to get by, Tim Steele's going to get by, but Robbie Gordon's going to get held up on the outside. And if you're on the inside line, I think your chances right now are a lot better than some of the others. The nerves that Moroso's crew have got to be feeling right now as they come back to the line. 3 laps to go. And that's still a lot of time here at Daytona. Tim Steele second, Kelly Earnhardt third, John Nemechek fourth, Bubba Nissen in fifth. On board with Kelly Earnhardt, who's always seemed to find a way to be up front towards the end. She nearly won it in 1999. Could she do it again in 2001? She's got a losing streak to snap. She's desperate to win, but so is the 51. So is the 6. Couple of guys there who have yet to win a Winston Cup race. How special would it be to get your first career win in the Daytona 500? It has happened many times before. Off turn 4. Moroso, however, still leads the way. He might be tough to get around. 2 laps remaining. White flag next time by. The crowd on their feet. Who is going to win the 500? Who's going to have a shot at glory? Kelly Earnhardt now up to second. On board with the 14 again. Does she have anything for Rob Moroso? She's trying to win her second 500, but look who is underneath her. That's Bubba Nissen in the 59. It's been 115 races since Nissan has last won. And look at this as they come to the white flag. It's 1996 all over again. Moroso versus Nissan. Here they come back to the start-finish line. White flag. Final lap of the 43rd Daytona 500. 2.5 miles to go. Who's going to come back around and win it? Moroso, Nissan, Moyes, Green, Earnhardt, Nemechek. Who is going to prevail? Here they come down the backstretch for the last time. Moroso trying everything he can to hold off Nissan. He needs half a lap here, but look at this! Nissan goes to the inside! Is Nissan gonna do it again? He's gonna pass Moroso! He's looking for a second Daytona 500! He's got help from Jeff Green! This is it! The finish of the Daytona 500! Off turn 4! It's been 4 years and the streak is over! Bubba Nissan wins the Daytona 500! 115 races and the winless drought is over! Bubba Nissan has done it! And heartbreak for Rob Moroso. It almost feels like deja vu all over again, but Bubba Nissan is now a 2-time winner of the Daytona 500. What an exciting finish in what has been one of the most anticipated Daytona 500s in NASCAR history. What a race, an exciting race, no doubt. And before we move on to the rest of the season, here's a look at your top 10 from this year's Daytona 500. Bubba Nissan only led 2 laps today, but one of them was the most important one of them all, and it was the last one. Jeff Green nearly got Moroso at the line, but ran out of time. He finishes second. Rob Moroso third with the most laps led. John Nemechek was fourth. Patty Moyes fifth. Kelly Earnhardt 6th. Tim Steele 7th. Dale Earnhardt crosses the line in 8th. Ernie Irvan 9th. And Tommy Kendall rounds out the top 10. This will certainly be a Daytona 500 to remember, as Bubba Nissan has proven he's still got what it takes. And now let's check out how the rest of the 2001 Winston Cup season plays out. Ricky Rudd scored the first Dodge Winston Cup pole as he started alongside Jeff Gordon to kick off the second race of the 2001 season at Rockingham. Rudd had a hot start, but that flame burned out too quickly. As 16 laps into the race, both Sterling Marlin and Daytona 500 winner Bubba Nissan got around the 19. Rudd would fall back and finish a disappointing 23rd place. Marlin, meanwhile, led for a large portion of the race, even through the first set of green flag pit stops. The only caution of the race came out on lap 61 when John Nemechek moved the 36 of Wally Dallenbach up the track and into the 63 of Kenny Wallace, as both cars go for a spin. No one else was involved. Everyone went down pit road for service, and Marlin continued to lead after the restart. He had a charging Tony Stewart right behind him, however, hungry for his first Winston Cup win. On lap 74, however, Marlin suddenly lost power and had to go down pit road. After a quick fix, he returned to the track, but was taken out of contention to win. This handed the lead over to Tony Stewart, and he was looking strong. However, another driver in search of his first career win was chasing him down, that being the 43 of Jerry Nadeau. After the lap car of Rob Moroso got around Tony Stewart, Nadeau got to Stewart's inside and Jerry Nadeau took the lead. However, it wasn't going to be easy, as Jeff Green was on the move as well. Then around 38 to go, Nadeau had to let a lap car of Marlin by and got tight in turn 4, causing him to lose the lead to Jeff Green. While Jeff Green was leading, one driver had it down and was the fastest car on the track, that being Alan Kulwicki, as no matter how many times Green tried to pass lap car after lap car, Kulwicki was reeling him in, and with 18 laps to go, Alan Kulwicki took the lead from Jeff Green. Green had no answer for the Polish Prince, as Alan Kulwicki went on to win at Rockingham. The season starts off with 2 owner drivers winning the first 2 races. Not only that, but Kawicki has now won a Winston Cup points race every year since 1988, a 14-year streak of winning at least 1 race a year. Tony Stewart is showing Rocket Man behavior as he started on pole for the second time in this young season at Vegas. The race had a wild opening segment with several leaders, including Stewart leading and Blaze Alexander earning his first laps led in a Winston Cup car, as well as Jeff Gordon and Rob Moroso being up front. Things stabilized a bit after the first pit stops, with Rusty Wallace jumping to the front on the short pit and Green and Stewart having the best long run cars. On the final run, Stewart got around Jeff Green in the long run, and Shauna Robinson came alive to climb to second, but didn't have enough time to climb to the front. It's a first career win alert. The smoke rises in Sin City as Tony Stewart gets his first Winston Cup win at Las Vegas. At Sears Point, Paige Jones started on the pole and had to battle Patty Moyes and the strong rookie Blaze Alexander early. Things got interesting, however, when strategy split during a caution on lap 7, with Davey Allison stalling in the S's and getting rear-ended by Bobby Hamilton in the process. Pit stops allowed Shauna Robinson to jump into the lead pack, and her pitting early in the second cycle of stops allowed her to jump to the lead. But with that said, Shauna's luck ran out during final pit stops as she got caught off guard in the cycle when another caution came out for Jeff Gordon. Paige Jones and a few others stretched their field to make it back to the front, including Blaze Alexander, who pushed Jones up the track on the restart. They were side by side with 6 to go and both low on fuel, with Moyes behind, somehow cycling back to the original top 3. Jones pulled back ahead in the chute and earned breathing room as he stretched his fuel and made it work. Paige Jones gets his first win of the season early, his second career win, both on road courses. Kyle Petty scored the pole with John Nemechek starting alongside him for the 5th race of the season at Atlanta. Petty led the opening lap but quickly lost the lead to John Nemechek, looking to claim his first Winston Cup win. But on lap 4, Shauna Robinson took the lead from Nemechek. 12 laps in, it was a Sabco 1-2-3 as Kyle Petty challenged Shauna Robinson for the lead. Ernie Irvan was battling for 3rd with Patty Moyes as Kyle Petty took the lead. Then on lap 21, Ernie Irvan challenged Petty for the lead but wasn't able to make the pass. 30 laps in, and Petty was challenged by Rusty Wallace, who scored his 5th title last time we were here. Wallace took the lead as he battled along with Moroso, Petty, Irvan, and Stewart. Then we had green flag pit stops a few laps later, and Kyle Petty took the lead back after pit stops, and he would continue to lead after the next round of stops as well. On lap 85, Patty Moyes caught up to Kyle Petty and would take the lead. 1 lap later, there was trouble as Kyle Petty broke down suddenly, causing Bobby Hamilton to run into him and 3rd place Tony Stewart. Both Stewart and Hamilton had heavy damage and their days were done. Alan Kawicki had the lead at the next restart with 25 laps to go, with tons of lap traffic ahead of the leaders. Behind Kawicki were the 2 drivers duking it out for the championship last fall, as Shauna Robinson wasted no time to pull away from Wallace and build a comfortable lead. But the saying goes that it's never over until it's over. Despite that Robinson built her lead, her teammate Patty Moyes had a rocket. Her car came to life right as it needed to as she worked her way past Rusty Wallace and Matt Kenseth. Then with 3 laps to go, Patty Moyes caught up to Robinson and took the lead. In what was a thriller late in the going, Patty Moyes goes on to pick up her first win of the season, and for Moyes, this also marks the 10th year in a row where she's had at least 1 win. The Elliots also had a great run, with Casey Elliott finishing 6th and Bill Elliott in 7th. Rob Moroso started on the pole in the next race at Darlington, but the 3-car breakaway early was Jeff Gordon, Patty Moyes, and Tony Stewart. Moyes ultimately cycled into the lead and pulled away from Stewart for a while. but lap traffic allowed Stewart to make his way to the lead himself, and also having a great run was Kenny Brack, who worked his way up to third. Casey Elliott jumped into the top 5 during final pit stops, but fell back on the final run, especially after a late caution for Shauna Robinson being spun, but she did continue and ended up finishing 15th. We restarted with 15 to go as Stewart and Moyes pulled ahead. Moyes looked to get around Stewart and was on his bumper in the closing laps, with Kenny Brack suddenly having the fastest car on track and catching the leaders, but both he and Moyes ran out of time to make a move, and Tony Stewart gets the second win of his young career as he looks to be this year's breakout star. 2 races later at Bristol, Jeff Gordon started on the pole and battled with Alan Kawicki and Jeff Green early, with Kawicki leading, but he would get taken out in a wreck later in the race. Patty Moyes and Kelly Earnhardt both had good runs, but it was owner versus driver, Dale Sr. and Tony Stewart battling for the win. Stewart looked for an impressive third win on the year, but his boss man passed him up with 15 to go and didn't look back. 1 week shy of his 50th birthday, and the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt, wins at Bristol. It was quite the eventful one at Martinsville for the 10th race of the season, as Kelly Earnhardt and Jerry Nadeau led the field to the green flag. Kelly Earnhardt was looking good early, leading for over the first 30 laps. By lap 34, Ernie Irvan took the lead from Kelly Earnhardt. On lap 48, Tony Stewart turned Jeremy Mayfield, causing Kenny Wallace and leader Ernie Irvan to get involved. Irvan was able to keep going, but was taken out of contention to win. At the restart, it was daughter-father 1-2, as Kelly Earnhardt led the field with Dale Earnhardt Sr., who turned 50 of the day of this race, in second. However, not too long after, Tony Stewart had another run-in, this time with Joe Nemechek. Right as the yellow hit, Jeff Gordon took control of the lead. A little bit after the next restart, Sterling Marlin took the lead from Jeff Gordon and pulled away. Rusty Wallace was able to work his way through the field and eventually found himself battling his teammate for the win. With 25 laps to go, we had some drama inside the top 10 when Rob Moroso got into Kyle Petty, sending the 42 up the track. Then we restarted with 20 laps to go, and Ricky Rudd got turned by the lap car of Wally Dallenbach from 10th. Then Rusty Wallace bumped into Paige Jones, sending the 93 into the 22, but Marlin was able to correct himself and keep the lead. Almost a case of Rusty nearly screwing his teammate over. Marlin kept hanging on, but on the final lap, Rusty Wallace dove to the inside of Marlin, and they were side by side coming to the line, and Sterling Marlin wins by a nose. What an exciting finish at the paperclip, as Marlin wins in a photo finish over Rusty Wallace. Here are the point standings after 10 races, as drivers like Bubba Nissen, Jeff Green, and Patty Moyes have had the points lead already this season. At Road America, Dodge had their best chance so far for the first win of their return, with Casey Elliott on pole and Ricky Rudd beside. The opening of this race was quiet, with Casey Elliott pulling away for a while, only being chased a bit past halfway by Patty Moyes, who took the lead in turn 3. But things changed quick during final pit stops when Patty Moyes made contact with Irvan on pit road and lost the lead. This led to Casey Elliott taking it back, with Jerry Nadeau right behind. And all this happened when the caution came out for a wreck in turn 1 involving Eddie Bierschwell, Bobby Hamilton, and Mark Simo in the 21. We had a 3-lap dash to the finish, with several drivers looking for their first win or to break their streak up front. Elliott pulled ahead on the restart thanks to Davey Allison making an aggressive move on Jerry Nadeau. He barely made it work and did slowly close the gap to the 94, but it wasn't going to give him enough time to reach his bumper. For the second year in a row, Road America gives us a first career win, and it's a big one. A Dodge returns to Winston Cup Victory Lane, and for the first time since 1996, an Elliott heads there too, as Casey Elliott finally gets his first career win in Wisconsin. We now take you to the 2001 All-Star Weekend as we start with the Open. John Nemechek scored the pole with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in second as the 50-lap race was underway. A Nemechek was looking for a fourth straight Open win, but Ricky Rudd would chase down the younger Nemechek and take the lead around the halfway point. Then with 20 to go, Kelly Earnhardt took the lead, but it came down to her, Ricky Rudd, and Kenny Brack. With 6 laps to go, Ricky Rudd got to the inside and would take the lead from Kelly Earnhardt. Ricky Rudd would go on to win the Open and advance to the Winston. Hey now, you're an all-star, get your game on and go play. 21 drivers are lined up and ready to go for a shot to show up and get paid as the Winston Cup prepares to run at the Nashville Fairgrounds one more time. Rob Moroso and Shauna Robinson led the field to the green flag to kick off the 100-lap event. Moroso dominated the entire first stage that took us to lap 30 and remained the leader after the restart. But after the restart, Shauna Robinson took the lead from Moroso and would then end up in a battle with Jeff Green. With that going on, the two Penske drivers in Sterling Marlin and Rusty Wallace were on the move. Jeff Green would eventually take the lead to the end of Stage 2 on lap 60. However, Green would lose the lead during pit stops to Sterling Marlin, a man who has spent many years racing at the fairgrounds. Marlin led the field back to the green flag and did all he could, but with 27 laps to go, Rusty Wallace took the lead from Marlin and he drove away. Kyle Petty did all he could to chase down Rusty, but it was too little too late, and Rusty Wallace goes on to win the All-Star for the first time. A clean and competitive race would wrap up the Memorial Day Triple for 2001 as Jeff Green started on the pole, with Penske having the best cars early, with Rusty Wallace, Blaze Alexander, and Matt Kenseth all running inside the top 10, plus Jerry Nadeau having a great early run. With that said, we had some new cars running up front as time went on, with Jeff Gordon and Patty Moyes having the best cars at the midpoint of the race. Kelly Earnhardt entered the picture with a good long-run car as well, but she didn't look like a threat for the win until short pitting the third cycle and pulling ahead with the lead thanks to some lap cars. Kelly Earnhardt wasn't as fast as Gordon and Moyes, but she was better in traffic, and on the final run, the time Gordon and Moyes had built on her got wiped away as the two battled hard for second, letting Kelly Earnhardt get around 2 more lappers. Kelly Earnhardt stormed onto the scene as a rookie with 2 wins, then just couldn't get any after that. After several runner-up finishes the past few seasons, Kelly Earnhardt finally gets her 3rd career win and snaps a 3-year losing drought in stock cars' longest night, the Coca-Cola 600. It was an exciting race, and it was one of those classic Michigan races. Rob Moroso started on the pole and looked strong early, but so did the Penske Fords, especially Sterling Marlin, as they were looking to grab a win at the captain's track. One caution came out around lap 40 as Patty Moyes turned Ernie Irvan coming off pit road. Irvan slid up the track. Tim Steele, Bobby Hamilton, Wally Dallenbach, Kenny Brack, and Blaze Alexander all got involved. With 7 laps to go, Jerry Nadeau led the field with Marlin second. Kawicki, Green, John Nemechek, Kendall, and Martin were there as well. Jeff Green zoomed to the lead with 6 laps to go, and he tried to hold on, but lap traffic became a factor, and this led to John Nemechek taking the lead coming to 3 laps to go, but he had a tall task if he wanted to win. Then with 2 laps to go, Alan Kawicki caught up to Nemechek and would take the lead, and while Mark Martin and Jerry Nadeau fought for second, Alan Kawicki would cruise to the win at Michigan. We've reached the 4th of July weekend at the Daytona Road Course as Jeff Green started on the pole, but for the outside pole sitter Kelly Earnhardt, things went south immediately on the first lap when Kyle Petty got into her, sending the 14 into the wall coming off the chicane, causing her to flip, getting drilled by Tim Steele. It was a brutal crash for Kelly Earnhardt, but she was okay and walked away. And here's another look at the wreck as Kelly Earnhardt once again taking several big hits. And she is definitely looking forward to forgetting about this one and moving on to the next race. Jeff Green and Patty Moyes looked to be favorites all throughout the race, but after a caution for John Nemechek, the one to benefit from the most was Sterling Marlin, as he worked his way past Shauna Robinson and Patty Moyes and would cruise his way to his third win of 2001. It has been a very competitive season so far. 16 races in, and Jeff Green holds just a 25-point lead over Rusty Wallace, as the top two have yet to win this season. Patty Moyes sits 54 points back, Rob Moroso 68 points back, and Alan Kowicki 78 points back. This race also featured Kyle and Adam Petty, both driving paint schemes to promote the new Jurassic Park movie. We're back for the second time in San Diego as Rob Moroso scored the pole, but Patty Moyes and Shauna Robinson quickly took first and second after the start. Moyes led for a while until Jeff Green caught up to both of them and ended up battling Moyes for the lead. After the first round of green flag pit stops, Rob Moroso took control of the lead, and it pretty much stayed the same all the way to the checkered flag as Rob Moroso picks up the win in SoCal. On another note, Jimmy Johnson, who just won the Busch race the day before, finished 8th in one of his select starts. Very impressive run by the El Cajon native. As we hit the halfway point on the season, we had a battle of long runs at New Hampshire. Rusty Wallace starts on pole as he looks to finally get in the win column despite being a favorite to defend his title off consistency. Rusty led early, but having a career day behind him was Dale Earnhardt Jr., trying to make a pass that he finally did before the first pit cycle. Dale Jr. had the best car of the day, but he had to fend off Patty Moyes multiple times, including a great side-by-side battle at the final stops. Drama unfolded late, however, with a caution with 6 to go for Bobby Hamilton and Rodney Orr. This set up a single-lap dash to the finish with Dale Jr., Patty Moyes, and Ricky Rudd in the top 3. Rudd made a daring move to try to take second from the start, and that allowed Little E to pull away. His sister returned to victory lane at Charlotte, and now it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. earning his first career win at New Hampshire. Ernie Irvan scored the pole at Pocono with Tony Stewart in second, but the one that was dominating early was the 42 of Kyle Petty, still searching for his first win of the season. He and Rob Moroso were the class of the field until the halfway point, when on lap 36, Matt Kenseth got into Kelly Earnhardt, causing them both to wreck. And as Earnhardt slid down the track, Jeff Green slammed into her. Another hard hit for the 14, but once again, she was okay after the wreck. We restarted with 30 laps to go, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. led the way, with Paige Jones driving a special Sonic Adventure 2 paint scheme, and Ernie Irvan right behind him. Paige Jones, however, would take the lead from Dale Jr. on the restart, and he led until lap 54 when we had green flag pit stops. Then with 10 laps to go, Ernie Irvan took control of the lead and was looking to cruise to his first win of the year, but he had rookie Blaze Alexander on his tail, and on the final lap, Blaze Alexander made the move to the inside going into turn 1, and he would take the lead. And the defending Busch Series champion, Blaze Alexander, goes on to get his first career Winston Cup Series victory at the Tricky Triangle. We had a very exciting Brickyard 400 on our hands here as Kyle Petty and Shauna Robinson led the field to the green flag. Petty's lead wouldn't last long, as on lap 4, Blaze Alexander took the lead, as he was picking up where he left off from Pocono and was looking fast in the early going. Alexander led for a while, but after green flag pit stops, Tony Stewart took the lead. But then he would lose it to Alexander and then take it right back. Rusty Wallace was also looking like a strong contender, but by lap 25, it was a DEI 1-2, as Tony Stewart led with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in second. Just a few laps later on lap 29, Dale Jr. took the lead from Stewart, while the boss man, Dale Sr., was in third. Then on lap 31, Tony Stewart took the lead back as the massive Indianapolis crowd was enjoying every moment of the race. After the next round of green flag pit stops, we were under 20 laps to go as Dale Jr. had a 2.5 second lead over Rusty Wallace and Tony Stewart. Then on lap 45, last year's winner Rusty Wallace chased down Dale Earnhardt Jr. and took the lead. Stewart eventually would take second. Then with 5 to go, Kyle Petty came from out of nowhere to take the lead from Rusty Wallace. His car was as fast as UPS shipping. Rusty Wallace and several other leaders had to pit since they were short on fuel, but in the end, it was Kyle Petty versus Tony Stewart. Stewart tried to find the opportunity to pounce, but never did. Kyle Petty goes on to win the 2001 Brickyard 400 in a thriller, and finally gets his first win of the season. 20 races in, and Rob Moroso holds a 37-point lead over teammate Jeff Green, but there was no clear-cut favorite, with Patty Moyes, Alan Kawicki, and Rusty Wallace all within 100 points. Patty Moyes and Rob Moroso led the field to the green flag at Watkins Glen, as Moyes took the lead from Moroso on lap 2, after a side-by-side battle. Then shortly after, Rob Moroso took the lead. Moroso was dominating the entire race until 12 to go when Tony Stewart ran into his teammate Kelly Earnhardt in the chicane, and while Earnhardt held her ground, Stewart went for a spin and got stuck in the gravel. This caused the caution to come out. The leaders did pit, and on the restart, Moroso, Petty, and Nissen went 3 wide heading into turn 1, and taking the lead ended up being Bubba Nissen. Nissen was then challenged by the 22 of Marlin, but Nissen hung on, and while Dale Earnhardt worked his way to second, it was Bubba Nissen earning his second win of 2001. What a resurging year for that 59 team. This is the second time Nissen has won at Watkins Glen, as he won here back in 1995. Matt Kenseth and Bubba Nissen led the field to the green flag to kick off the second Michigan race of the season, and the contenders halfway through the going consisted of the likes of Shauna Robinson, Jeff Green, Rob Moroso, Patty Moyes, and Alan Kawicki. On lap 46, during the second round of green flag pit stops, Dale Earnhardt got turned by Kenny Brack coming off pit road, sending Earnhardt up the track, and thankfully no one else was involved. Jerry Nadeau led the field back to the green flag with 19 laps to go. As the action was heating up with 10 to go, Tommy Kendall's car broke down in the middle of the pack. Everyone was trying their best to avoid, but David Keith in the 57 ran into Tony Roper, setting Roper into Paige Jones. Then Rick Mass and Patty Moyes ran into Kendall, causing a pileup in turn 2. Then Todd Bodine put on his ARCA brakes and slammed into Patty Moyes, sending her flipping and on her roof. Moyes was okay after the wreck. Shauna Robinson restarted as the leader with 5 to go and had to hold off many late chargers, including Dale Earnhardt. But with 2 laps to go, Jerry Nadeau in a Sapco-supported car challenges Robinson for the lead, and Nadeau cleared her. Add another first-time winner to the 2001 season, as Jerry Nadeau finally gets his first Winston Cup win at Michigan, driving the Petty 43. 2 notable drivers at the top of the standings had yet to win so far in 2001, but that would quickly change, as Rusty Wallace powered his way past Davey Allison to win at the Bristol Night Race, and then Jeff Green dominated to a win at Richmond. Speaking of Richmond, this race featured the Looney Tunes cars for the Chevy Monte Carlo 400. A total of 7 Monte Carlos were made to sport the Looney Tunes look, with Rob Moroso teaming up with Bugs Bunny, Kenny Brack teaming up with Daffy Duck, Dale Earnhardt with Taz the Tasmanian Devil, Joe Nemechek with Yosemite Sam, Tony Stewart with Sylvester and Tweety, Kelly Earnhardt with Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, and Davey Allison with Marvin the Martian. Cars you can download after the premiere to this video. We had an absolute classic at Darlington for the Southern 500, and possibly the most exciting race of the season. Jeff Green started on the pole as he looked to go back-to-back, but had to contend with two hungry winless drivers, Jeff Gordon and Ricky Rudd. Rudd had the best pace and led in the early going for Dodge, but soon after, Jeff Gordon would take over, as would Alan Kulwicki. Kulwicki had the fastest car in the first half, but we had an incredible moment that changed both their days, as Kulwicki and Gordon both made contact going for the lead. They would both ride the outside wall with damage, and we stayed green, but the two had to pit immediately. Some damage was saved from the pit cycle, but not much. Additionally, we had a caution for Todd Bodine spinning off Patty Moyes, which took out notable cars, including Dale Earnhardt and Bubba Nissen. Casey Elliott was in the thick of it, but had no damage slowing down besides the wall. Ricky Rudd and Rob Barroso led for a bit before Ernie Irvan took the lead on the long run. Irvan had stretched his lead greatly after pit stops before the pivotal moment of the race. Ernie Irvan had caught up to a big stack-up of lappers when disaster struck. John Nemechek rammed into Irvan's back as he brake-checked. Irvan went up the banking and ended up on his roof after contact with Kelly Williams. The big wreck collected Irvan, Rudd, and a few others, with Moroso the first car escaping unscathed. But he didn't have enough fuel, and neither did the other leaders. This set up a new strategy for some to stay out. Over 10 cars tried to stretch it, led by Tony Stewart and Casey Elliott, who rebounded back to the lead pack. Stewart was looking for back-to-back Darlington wins and took the lead from Elliott quick on the restart, running away from lappers with 22 to go. Casey Elliott had to stay on his bumper and be patient, but finally made his move to the inside with 13 to go, and Casey Elliott pulled away for a moment from Stewart, but in the final 5 laps, Stewart reached his bumper once again, but ran wide trying to make it work, and never got another chance. In one of the most dramatic Southern 500s in history, we had a driver who came to a complete stop in the first caution, come all the way back on pace to score the win. Casey Elliott gets his second win of the season and of his career. While Casey's point spot is lower than he'd like, there's no doubt now that he's finally arrived on the scene. This 94 won the race after the save of his life. He was in it, but made contact with nothing but the wall and came all the way back. Despite the inconsistency, it shows that Casey Elliott might be the one to lead Dodge into the future. Another driver finally picked up a win this season, that being Jeff Gordon at North Wilkesboro, as Bill Davis Racing had a rough first half of the season, but now the team has been hitting their strides, as this put Jeff Gordon well into the top 10 in the standings. After taking an unexpected pause to the season, it's time to work on getting life back to normal. It was a massive crowd on hand in Martinsville, Virginia for the Old Dominion 500. Many cars in the field now sport the American flag or a patriotic look. Everyone at the track took time to reflect on September 11th. Now, we get to the action. Shauna Robinson, along with Jeff Green, led the field to the green flag as a crowd of 85,000 plus cheered on. Robinson looked strong early as Kelly Earnhardt moved her way up to second, looking to earn herself a Martinsville grandfather clock. Then on lap 16, Kelly Earnhardt battled with Robinson for the lead until taking the lead on lap 18. Then on lap 20, Tim Steele spun the 7 of Alan Kulwicki to bring out the first caution. After pit stops, Shauna Robinson took the lead back and led the field at the restart. The next caution came out on lap 29 when Kyle Petty spun Ken Schrader, who hit the 3 of Dale Earnhardt, but both kept going. After another caution, Bubba Nissen would lead for a bit, looking for a home track win. Then the lead would go back to Jeff Green, and there were some cautions in between. But we finally hit a long green flag run in the second half of the race, and with 70 laps to go, Shauna Robinson used lap traffic to work her way past Jeff Green for the lead. Robinson would drive away after this, and there was no stopping the Kmart Pontiac. With 5 laps to go, Kelly Williams turned the 75 of Tammy Jo Kirk, coming off turn 4 to bring out the caution that would end the race. And with that, the field came off turn 4 and the American and checkered flags waved as Shauna Robinson took home the win at Martinsville. And finally, Shauna Robinson gets her first win of the season, and once again, she wins during the big moments. With Rob Moroso wrecking out at Martinsville, this now put Jeff Green in position to pounce to take the points lead, as he only sat 9 points back from his teammate. Another driver throwing herself into the championship equation was Patty Moyes. She got white hot towards the end of the season as she picked up her third win of 2001 at Talladega, putting her within 125 points of the lead, while Jeff Green was only 4 points back. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Ricky Rudd led the field to the green flag to kick off the fall race at Lowe's Motor Speedway, but right away, Shauna Robinson would take the lead by lap 3. Then on lap 7, Jeff Gordon took the lead from Robinson, but that wouldn't last long as Robinson would take it right back by lap 15. On lap 27, Rusty Wallace caught up to Robinson and he would take the lead. The first caution came out around lap 58 when Mark Martin got into Patty Moyes, sending her into Ernie Irvan as all three wrecked in turn 3. Another separate wreck happened when Joe Nemechek sent Kenny Wallace up the track into Jeremy Mayfield, causing Bobby Hamilton and Rick Mass to run into him. Due to the timing of the caution, first and second place were at the back of the pack, those being Jeff Green and Jimmy Johnson. Green had the lead, but Jimmy Johnson would challenge him for a few laps. Green held on until green flag pit stops, then handing the lead over to Jimmy Johnson, looking to shock the world. He did all he could, but on lap 114, Jeff Green took the lead from Johnson, and then green flag pit stops took place again. Johnson did get out in front of Green, but it was inevitable. Jeff Green took the lead back, and he would go on to cruise to his second win of the season with Jimmy Johnson in second. Patty Moyes continued her hot run, picking up her fourth win of the season at the inaugural Winston Cup race at Kansas Speedway, while her teammate Kyle Petty came up short at Gateway, with Paige Jones picking up his second win of the season. As for Rusty Wallace, he would come up short of the triple header sweep, finishing in fourth. However, there was still plenty to celebrate as Rusty enjoyed getting to race and win in front of his hometown crowd in St. Louis. Moyes then won again at Riverside, while Jeff Green lost most of his points lead, finishing in 25th. Kyle Petty took home the checkered flag at Phoenix with just 3 races remaining. The title fight got more intense as Jeff Green was only ahead by 22 points over Rob Moroso and 86 points over Patty Moyes. Jeff Green, however, would help his championship odds with his third win of the season at Homestead Miami Speedway, putting himself at a 42-point advantage over Rob Moroso. Once again, a race that was originally supposed to be the season finale, but still had plenty of drama. Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt led the field to the green flag at Atlanta, as Rusty had a nice lead going early. Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt battled back and forth for second. 20 laps in, and Ricky Rudd found his way into the equation. It seemed all race long when there were green flag pit stops, we always had a poorly timed caution. On lap 33, the first caution came out when Bill Elliott moved Chad Little up the track, sending them both up the track and into the wall. As Elliott slid down, Tammy Jo Kirk slammed into Elliott, and Dale Jr. got a piece of the wreck too. Jeff Gordon led the field back to the green flag with Moroso and Petty behind him. 50 laps in, and Moroso had the lead. And on the charge was Terry Labonte, suddenly having plenty of speed and looking to give Chip Ganassi his first win in NASCAR. The next caution came out on lap 65 when Kelly Williams squeezed Jimmy Johnson down the track, causing Williams to spin. She would keep going. Unfortunately for Gordon, Labonte, Rusty Wallace, and Rob Moroso, they were sent to the tail end of the field, while Patty Moyes led the field back to the green flag. Jeff Green was 26th and Moroso was 30th. Green was not in front of the leaders and had the opportunity to make up positions. With 36 to go, Paige Jones took the lead from Moyes, but then just a few laps later, Moyes took it back, and then they went to pit. But then, there was another caution when Ernie Irvan ran over Ricky Rudd and Dale Earnhardt made contact with Alan Kulwicki. We restarted with 14 laps to go, and a complete shocker up front. Rookie Kelly Williams of Jarrett Farr Motorsports was leading the way with Paige Jones second and Patty Moyes third. Could Williams cause the upset today? Before Jones could take the lead, the caution came out for Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt wrecking. Then we restarted again with 8 laps to go, and while Williams did all she could to hold off Jones and Moyes, she was passed a lap after the restart, and Moyes did all she could to get to Jones to maximize her points, but she falls short, and Paige Jones picks up his third win of 2001. Heading into Dover, Patty Moyes is 77 points from the championship. Jeff Green has a chance at glory, while Rob Moroso's title hopes might have been dashed. Patty Moyes will need a little help, but as they say, it's not over until it's over. It's a chilly but nice afternoon in Dover, Delaware, as we are set to crown a champion in the first state that was admitted into the Union. It came down to Owensboro, Kentucky's Jeff Green, a man who took over for Neil Bonnet after his 1996 retirement and has done well, but now he's on the cusp of immortality. This has been a massive season for Richard Childress Racing. Could this be the big day for Jeff Green? Then there's Jacksonville, Florida's Patty Moyes. Many say she's in the twilight of her career, but she has shown that she still has what it takes to win a title. Can the one that began the female movement in NASCAR finally take home the sport's most coveted prize? Here we go. Ernie Irvan led the field to the green flag for the season finale at Dover. Irvan was able to clear for the lead, with Jeff Gordon taking second. On lap 15, Jeff Green went to the inside of Ernie Irvan, but wasn't able to complete the pass. Then on lap 27, Jeff Green was able to get around Irvan for the lead, handing him 5 extra bonus points. Patty Moyes, meanwhile, was running in 11th. Jeff Green led to the first round of green flag pit stops around lap 47 and would remain the leader afterwards. While Patty Moyes was running solid inside the top 10 all day, it was not enough to catch up to Jeff Green, who locked up the most laps led for 5 more bonus points. With 5 laps to go, Shauna Robinson ran into the back of Wally Dallenbach, sending them both into the wall to bring out the caution that would end the race and the season. Jeff Green capped off a dominating performance as he picked up his 4th win of the 2001 season, and while Patty Moyes did all she could, running in the top 10 all day, it was going to be tough to stop the 31. And with this win, Jeff Green has captured the NASCAR Winston Cup Series Championship for 2001. What a huge moment for the 38-year-old as he captures his first championship and the 3rd for Richard Childress Racing. RCR sweeps both the Busch and Winston Cup Series seasons with Jeff Green and Jimmy Johnson. We still had one race left with the International Exhibition, once again back in Rio. This race would once again feature the top runners from the Winston Cup Series, including some notable drivers such as Jill DeFerrin, Busch Series runner-up John Andretti, Busch Series champion Jimmy Johnson, and a few other Brazilian drivers in Ingo Hoffman, Chico Serra, and once again, Ayrton Senna. Rusty Wallace and Matt Kenseth led the field to the green flag as the field of 28 go around this Rio circuit. Matt Kenseth took an early lead, but on lap 7, Sterling Marlin took the lead from him. Then on lap 11, Bubba Nissen took the lead from Sterling Marlin. On lap 22, Nissen lost the lead to Patty Moyes, but the window had opened for the first round of green flag pit stops. However, as she went to pit road, Ayrton Senna ran into the back of Nissen, sending the 59 into the wall. Shortly after the restart, Ernie Irvan took the lead from Rusty Wallace, but then he would lose the lead to Casey Elliott, who then would lose the lead to Jill DeFerrin. Then by lap 39, Jeff Green took the lead. The next caution came out on lap 44 for Ingo Hoffman, Shauna Robinson, and John Nemechek getting together and wrecking in turn 1. The race restarted with Joe DeFerrin back out in front, and he was leading for a good while, with Blaze Alexander eventually getting the second. With 10 laps to go, DeFerrin shoved the lap car of Kelly Earnhardt, and that sent the 14 into the wall. He went to pit road right as the caution came out. Casey Elliott restarted as the leader with 4 laps to go, but a couple of lap cars would get around him, as well as Kyle Petty to take the lead. Then taking second was his son, Adam Petty. Kyle and Adam Petty were able to hold on for a Petty 1-2 finish, as Kyle Petty wins in Rio. What an insane and memorable 2001 season, as we take a look at the winners and the final standings from the 2001 NASCAR Winston Cup Series season, and what I'm sure will be a season to remember for many years to come. 2001 featured 18 different winners on the season, with Patty Moyes collecting the most wins at 5, as she also finished 130 points from the championship from Jeff Green. Dale Earnhardt also had a great season, finishing 5th in points, and many drivers listed here are going to look to have an even bigger year heading into 2002. For the first time in over a decade, Richard Childress Racing has reached the mountaintop, and for the first time, they've done it with a driver other than Earnhardt. The 31 car has had a unique history alongside the 3. It started with Dale's close friend Neil Bonnet making a winning comeback as a teammate. Then, in 1997, it was passed on to a driver who drove for Dale, Jeff Green, now sporting Budweiser Red. He won early in just his 6th career start at Darlington, but had to wait again, earning his second win at the 1998 Brickyard 400. Green's career started as a consistent driver who couldn't get in the win column more than once a year. But then in 2000, the switch flipped, with 4 wins, a total he matched in 2001, including the race that earned him the title. Last year, it was Penske taking both the Cup and Busch Series crowns, but this year, it was Childress, and a young star waiting to be born in the Busch Series. As the Intimidator turns 50, RCR is in good hands, and one of his teammates has brought Childress back to championship glory. At the 2001 NASCAR Awards banquet, Jeff Green spoke highly of the team around him. Dale and Richard have given me the chance to showcase my talent, and the folks on my team at Chevrolet help our team perform the same as the best. When you know you have the opportunity to win anywhere, that's good for a driver. We've won at every kind of track except a road course in the past few years, and soon we'll start winning there too. I'm blessed to be with this team and to keep winning. We're ready to do so for years to come. Jeff Green is 39 years old. That's the tail end of the peak for most athletes. But perhaps, just like his mentor Dale Earnhardt, he can win races well into his 40s, and maybe he could even match or beat his 3 championships along the way. 2001 was an incredibly competitive season between veteran winners like Green, Earnhardt, Kawicki, and Rusty Wallace, who even in a down year still finished 6th in points. Yet at the same time, young drivers are slowly getting more consistent. Jeff Gordon finished top 10 in points again, while Paige Jones had a big step as a sophomore. Then, Dale Jr., Blaze Alexander, and Casey Elliott, 3 of the youngest in the field, each got their first wins. Now the question becomes, how long will it be before they truly take over? Just like real life, 2001 brought plenty of storylines. Dodge is back, and while they have work to do to reach the top of the point standings, Casey and Bill Elliott both made big improvements this season. Kelly Earnhardt and Bubba Nissen both broke multi-year winless droughts, and in crown jewel races no less. And while Rusty and Shauna's rivalry took a bit of a backseat, both got marquee wins. Rusty conquered the last Great Coliseum, and Shauna took victory in the first race after September 11th. NASCAR is full of stars of all kinds, experienced drivers and young drivers in the making, short trackers and dirt racers, road racers that have become winners on ovals, and some that are new to ovals waiting to make their statement. NASCAR is a sport that changes more than one would think and always has, and that's okay. Every driver from the top to the bottom of the sport has a story to tell, and no matter what their history is, they could one day become an on-track hero. 2001 was defined by heroes, both the heroes we lost and the ones whose stories finally began. But in this timeline, it happens a little differently. Dale Earnhardt will see his story end on his own terms, and so will drivers like Alan Kowicki and Davey Allison. And when they retire, they'll each have a legacy to look back on proudly. Who will be the next man or woman up? Will it be Jimmy Johnson with an even stronger Busch Series legacy? Will it be Adam Petty exceeding the hype as the fourth generation athlete? Names like Gordon, Kenseth, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. have shown potential and could one day become the face of the sport. Or perhaps, just like Bubba Nissen, Patty Moyes, or Shauna Robinson, the next star of the sport could be a driver no one sees coming. After all, every driver can be a hero. Thank you for all of your patience in the run-up to 2001. It's taken longer than we planned, but after making our biggest video ever, it was definitely worth the wait. We have created a timeline where any driver has the chance to be the next star of NASCAR. Any driver can become a hero. I have a lot of people to thank for putting this video together. As always, Jets Racing Designs and RoseJam created most of the new paint schemes and graphics you saw throughout this video. RoseJam also helped out with our team rating system and was the one who created the stock GT Dodge Viper and Super Sportsman Dodge Stratus template. Those new templates will be made available shortly after this video ends. The same will be done with our wide array of new paint schemes, including the Looney Tunes Takeover, Jurassic Park 3 cars, and the Patriotic cars from September. Thank you again to Faris for his work on our driver rating algorithm, which continues to build each season. And lastly, special thanks to Griffdawg, not only for being the pioneer of NR 2003 storytelling, but for being willing to narrate the opening for 2001, a year we've seen quite a lot of content on. But after 20 seasons of rewritten racing history, we did 01 in our own way, and it lived up to the hype. We made 2001 about heroes, because NASCAR is full of them, even if they can't always be seen. And as the sport continues to evolve, heroes become all the more important. And there's no better year to celebrate heroes than a year where heroes were lost, but new heroes rose again. Speed reigns supreme because motorsports are beautiful, and as part of that, drivers become heroes. Every driver in the history of racing is a hero to someone. It just so happens that some win more than others. And now as the 2000s march on, the question remains, who will be the next hero to become a champion? This is Sunday Night Lights, and we're rewriting racing history one year at a time.